presenter for today has been working in the field of quality, health, safety, and environment for more than 15 years. And he also has an 8 years experience as university instructor and associate professor. He is a registered NIBOSH examiner here in UAE, and he is also a licensed chemical engineer in the Philippines. He took up his BS Chemical Engineering in Mapua University, and he proceeded to chemical engineering for his master's in University of the Philippines, Diliman. He also did his PhD in chemical engineering in UP and did his master's of business administration in Anglia Ruskin University in United Kingdom. He completed international diplomas and certifications such as NIBOSH International Diploma in Occupational Health and Safety, NIBOSH International Diploma in Environment, Level 7 International Diploma in Occupational Health and Safety, and Level 7 International Diploma in Strategic Management and Leadership. So if you have questions about NIBOSH or anything related sa international qualifications, matatanong niyo tong presenter natin. No? And he's also one of the panelists during the first NIBOSH online conference back in 2020, and an approved radiation safety officer here in UAE by the Federal Authority for Nuclear Regulation. And lastly, he's the FILSA Training Committee Chairperson and co-founder of the FILSA. May we call on our fellow safety advocate, Sir Rogel Importado. Sir, the floor is yours po.
Thank you, Jura. Thank you po sa mga participants po natin. Pwede ko na ba i-share yung screen?
Pwede na po.
So, thank you very much for spending your time today for this training. I'm equally excited and thrilled and nervous to conduct this training because, honestly speaking, this is my first time to conduct this training. Although I was exposed in ISO Special 9000 series way back in 1997, when the standard was a different structure then. Iba pa kasi noon, may hiwalay pang 9001, 9002, 9003, depende sa industry mo. But I was not able to have the opportunity to conduct this training. So I hope that everyone will learn from each other. Wala naman sa atin dito is have an absolute knowledge about the subject matter, and we are open for learning. Kapag tinigil po natin yung ating desire to learn, dun lang tayo natatapos na mag-improve sa sarili natin. So, if in case that you have some questions in relation to the subject matter, and there are things that you wanted to clarify, either you can place your questions in our chat box, or we can discuss it later at the end of the session. Kung sa tingin niyo mabilis o mabagal, unfortunately, hindi ko kaya mag-conduct ng training ng dire-diretsong Tagalog. So, siguro, nakasanayan ko lang, even before I was in the academy. So if in case that you could not be able to understand what I'm saying, or there are some technicalities that requires more emphasis with regards to discussion, then you can just simply notify. So, first and foremost, ISO 9001 is so influential. Actually, this was the first ISO standard that was created way back of the 1987. No? It was so influential because during that time, the ISO standard has just created a standard based from a British safety standard, or British standard. Okay, so which means that kaya siya influential kasi nga there was a time in 1987 that even European countries mandated or required the companies belonging to European Union to be certified in ISO 9001. To be specific, ISO 9001, 2, and 3. So kaya siya influential kasi nga nirequire ng mga bansa. No? So to have a uniform or standardized system of managing the quality of the system. Kasi yung mga panahon na yon, during the First World War, during the Industrial Revolution of the 1920s, doon nag-boom ang industry, no? Kaya yung tinawag siyang Industrial Revolution. Yun yung panahon na lumubog yung Titanic, no? So doon na umpisahan na mabuksan ang isip ng tao na kaya niya palang hindi lang pala kahoy at bato ang kaya niyang gawin, no? That was the time when manufacturing boomed. Paggamit ng mga metals, lahat ng yon, no? Shipbuilding. So during that time, the objective of the industry was just to create the products and services that are required by the market. No? Along the way, nakita nila na hindi lang pala sapat na kailangan mo ma-produce ng produkto. Kailangan mo rin masigurado kung if these products and services really serve the purpose and the expectations of the customers. It was in the 1950s, after the Second World War, that they have introduced the quality assurance aspect of that. Meaning, there should be a certain level of confidence when you buy something or when you acquire the services of an entity. Hindi lang sapat na binibigyan ka ng produkto at ng serbisyo, kailangan masasatisfy ka rin as a customer. So that was in the 1950s. So that was just an introduction of the ISO 9000. There was from 1987, there was a drastic revision of the structure of the ISO 9000 standard on 1994 to be exact, and 2000. Yung kung ano man yung nakikita natin ngayon, it was the revision of the 2000. Nung na-expose ako rito, it was the 1994 version na may hiwa-hiwalay pang 9,000 standard depending on the nature of your business or the scope of the business. No? So noon na-expose ako sa 9,002 because I was working in a chemical manufacturing industry way back sa Pilipinas in Pasig. Siguro kung alam niyo yung RI or Resins Incorporated or RI Chemical Corporation in Bagong Ilog, I think in forgot the name of the street sa Pasig, no? Sa Valle Verde siya. So I was exposed and one of those persons involved in the certification process of the company under ISO 9002 that time. So ano po ba yung gagawin natin ngayon? This is just an awareness, meaning we are not dwelling into much deeper understanding on the structure, on what is the exact requirement of a quality management system as far as compliance or certification to the standard. No? We are not also going into deep on how we will audit a system, a management system of a company under the ISO 9001-2015 standard. So hindi natin gagawin. We just wanted to understand what it is and what are the requirements in order for us to conform to its requirements. Okay. So what are the objectives of what are the contents, of this training? Unfortunately, I cannot see the topmost because may ano siya. Nakikita ko yun. Anyway, so we will discuss the training objectives of this. Next is what are the principles that are incorporated in quality management? What is the approach that's being used by the ISO, starting up, of course, the 9001 standard with regards to managing the system. And this is where the risk-based approach started when they have introduced it in the 9000 series. And what is actually the framework of the 9001 standard? What are the typical records and documents that are required by the standard for us to say that we are conforming or we are in conformity with the standard? And what are the references? No, I have just attached here or placed here the downloadable copy of the standard, which I requested if it can be also sent to everyone. So alam niyo kung ano yung pinagsasasabi ko rito. No? Remember this, kahit sinabi naman dito ni Albert Einstein, no, hindi sapat na alam natin verbally or by words ang isang bagay para masabi natin na intindihan natin. No? Kaya nga tayo may library, Kaya nga tayo mayroong legal requirements para mayroon tayong balikan anytime. Kahit ang mga abogado, may mga uh, files of documents sila, hindi para kabisaduhin lahat. No? Kasi pwede naman nilang balikan. That's a good thing about documentation. What we wanted here is that we wanted everyone to understand what is ISO 9001-2015 standard. It's not enough for us to memorize. Kung magaling ka mag-memorize, then so be it. Magaling ka. No? But it's not that, it is not what we are after here. Kasi as long as we have a standard, anytime you can go back to that and you can refer to that. But what matters most when you are implementing these requirements of the standard is you need to understand it so that you can um, guide your organization in order for you to be in conformance or to be in conformity with the standard. So, what are the objectives of this training? First is, of course, we need to be aware what are the principles of the quality management. We need to also understand how the process approach is and what is a risk-based thinking is. Then afterwards, we can go deeper to what is the ISO 9001 quality management system is, the framework. Of course, before doing that, we need to understand the generic high-level structure that was developed by ISO in order for us to have an easy integration of other management systems. No? So after that, we will go to what are the documents and records that are being required by the standard. And last but not the least, I don't know, probably some of you may be fully familiar with it, or others, from what I heard from the registration, majority of the attendees are newbies, or some are totally have no idea at all with regards to ISO 9001 2015 Quality Management System Standard. So apart from the typical 9001 generic management system for quality, there are other specific industry-specific quality management system standards. So, pattern ito sa quality management system ng 9001, but because they cater industries, specific industries, merong little bit pagkakaiba dun sa 9001. And yet, they are still considered quality management system standard. So, etong mga to, ang gusto nating malaman, at least to be aware about it, to be familiar with it. So what are quality management principles? No? So before we go into the deep of the quality management system standard, we should understand where it comes from. Pag sinabi mong principle, kung tatagalugin natin siya at ilalapat natin na, we will apply it on the personal basis. Pag sinabi mong maprinsipyo kang tao, or maprinsipyo itong tao ito, his actions, his thinking, encircled or within the framework of that principle. No, hindi siya gagawa ng isang bagay na mag-against dun sa prinsipyo niya. So, in short, when we say about quality management principles, these are the things that the organization believes. Okay? So that in compliance with that belief, he manages the quality of his product and services and implement a system so that ensuring the products and services being rendered by your company is in line with his expectations or with the organization's expectation. So quality management principles have, as far as the ISO standard is concerned, have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 principles. No? These are set of fundamental beliefs, norms, rules, and values that are accepted as true and can be used as a basis of the quality management. Obviously, when a company desires to be certified into ISO 9001 standard, these norms and rules and values should be in line with what the organization believes. Otherwise, it will be like a clash or contradiction of what the organization believes and what you are applying as your system in place. And this can be used as foundation to guide the organization's performance improvement. At the end of the day, the ISO standard aims for us for improvement, meaning there should be always room for room for things to innovate, to change, to learn from something that we have learned, that we have encountered before. So according to ISO 9000, ISO 9000 is actually the standard of a 9000 series wherein the quality management principles have been defined. Ito mga to nasa 9,000 ito, hindi nito makikita sa 9001. Naka-define lang ito, naka-enumerate lang ito sa 9001 standard, but kung ano yung laman nito, hindi nito makikita sa 9001. No? You need to refer the ISO 9000 standard for you to understand why such principles in quality management need to consider. And these are first, the customer focus, the leadership, engagement of people, the process approach, which is one of the reasons why we are doing this, the improvement, the evidence-based decision making, because at the end of the day, the management requires this system for them to facilitate or help them to decide matters in relation to the business. Otherwise, what's the point of having a new system in place if they will not be helpful to the management? And apart from that, the last but not the least, of course, is relationship management. So to give you an idea, before we dwell into the details of the ISO 9001 standard, as I said, we need to understand what are the beliefs and norms that an organization should have for him or for the organization to adopt the ISO 9001 standard. Okay, so let us go to the principle of customer focus. Ano po ba ito ilalim? Ilan po, ilalagay ko sa ilalim ng task kasi. So the customer focus is, what is the objective or the purpose of the customer focus? Based on the 9000 standard, it says that it to meet the customer requirements and to exceed the customer expectations. No? Which is very obvious from the title itself, customer focus. The reason behind this is that in order to achieve sustained success, organization needs to attract and retain confidence of customers and other interested parties. Okay? And the benefits of this are increased customer satisfaction, customer loyalty, having repeat business, enhancement in the company reputation, and increase the revenue and the market share. That's the reason why you will notice for the safety practitioners here and professionals, advocates, when we are involved in quality management system, it's not so difficult for us to discuss matters with the top management and even to your mid-management. It's not so difficult for us to get their attention. Why? Because from the start, the quality management system gearing toward revenue and market share, meaning business-oriented siya. No? So, alam niyo naman sa management, ang alam lang naman nilang lengguwahe, pera. No? Magandang reputasyon at pera. So if you will be able to use those terminologies and use those terminologies to get their attention, then it will be easier for you to speak with them. Okay? So that is the customer focus. The next is the leadership. As we are aware, all of the ISO management system standards, certifiable management system standards, are gearing towards leadership. At alam natin kung ano yung diferensya ng leadership sa management. Leadership, ito yung mga innovators. They are visionaries. Sila yung tumitingin sa malayo. Sila yung nagtitake ng risk. Hindi lang sila nakukontento. Yung leaders are the ones that take risks. They take chances. And they are not settling for what is the status quo. Kung ano yung nandyan, hindi sila satisfied na. No? So, yun yung leadership. No? So, which is totally different from the management. Management, magaling sila magpatupad. No? Kung ano yung nandyan nakasulat, ipatupad natin. No? Kung maganda, okay na. Hindi na natin kailangan baguhin. Sabi nga ng kawikaan, kung wala namang problema, bakit mo kailangan palitan? No? Yun ang kanilang prinsipyo. No? The management approach is like that. So going back to leadership as one of the principles of the quality management, they said that leaders have purpose, direction, and means for people to engage in achieving the quality objectives. Because they are visionaries, they direct or they give pathway on how the management and the organization should think. And the reason behind it is in order for the company to align its strategies, policies, processes, and resources to achieve their quality objective. Remember, quality objectives are defined by the organization for them to achieve their goal and mission and their vision. Gumagawa ka ng isang objective, meron kang gustong mangyari kasi meron kang in-expect na sana yun ang makuha mo. Yun, di ba? That's part of your motivation on doing something. And the key benefits of having this leadership as a principal is that it has increased effectiveness and efficiency, better coordination in the company processes, which later on we'll describe in detail, improve communication at all levels and functions. Remember, leadership as different from management. Pag leader ka, hindi mo kailangan ng posisyon. Hindi mo kailangan ng titulo. Kaya minsan nakikita mo sa mga bata pag naglalaro, panoorin mo sila, no? Makikita mo may mga bata na from the start, may leadership quality na sila. Sila yung gustong namumuno. Sila yung gustong marinig yung sinasabi nila. They are not simply settling to what people are saying. Kailangan meron din silang sabihin. So, in short, hindi naman sila bida-bida like Jollibee, no? Pero the thing is, they are assertive. They know what they want and they are not just keeping themselves quiet, no? Yun yung nakakatuwa sa mga leaders, no? And they don't need to have a title. Pwede ka maging leader at different functional level ng isang organization. Kahit baguhan ka lang, kahit nasa middle management, supervisorial position ka. And however, the most effective leaders in the organization are the ones that were given authority and power. Kasi ang leader, kahit na visionary yan, kung walang suporta yan, hindi rin niya magagawa. So magandang, kaya nga in this standard, they emphasize the importance of top management as the overall leader of the organization. No? So hindi lang sapat na makontento ang isang nasa taas kung ano yung nandyan. Dapat visionary din siya, no? Nag-innovative siya. So including the benefits are company reputation, of course, enhancement to that, and the capability to deliver desired results. At the end of the day, gusto natin kung ano yung hinihingi ng customer, maibigay natin. No? Yun yung significance of this. The next of the among the principles is engagement of people. Of course, the greatest asset of any organization is people. Kaya nga pag inabayaan mo ang tao mo, maaaring sa umpisa sa tingin mo, successful ka kasi napababa mo yung sahod ng empleyado mo or hindi ka gaano gumagastos sa mga benefits ng empleyado mo. But at the end of the day, the major asset of an organization are the people. So therefore, their engagement in improving the management of their organization as far as quality is concerned is very important. So why is it's very important? Competent, empowered, and engaged people. Remember the word empowered. Binibigyan mo sila ng power. Hindi mo lang sila basta sinasabing diyan ka, gawin mo yung sinasabi ko. Hindi. Hinahayaan mo silang mag-isip gaya ng gusto kong mangyari sa ating lahat ngayon. Hindi kayo taga copy paste at taga receive lang sa akin, no? I'm encouraging you to have critical mind, critical analysis. Think of things that hindi mo napansin or hindi ko napansin na maaaring mas magdadagdag sa ating kaalaman, no? And competent, empowered, and engaged people are essential in creating and delivering value. Kasi nga, hindi lang sila nakokontento. Kaya malawak ang kanilang pananaw, tinitingnan nila even the things that are not so obvious. And the reason behind that is that the recognition, empowerment, and competency of the enhancement facilities are very important in achieving quality objectives. And these are the benefits. Of course, we need to understand the quality objective, the people involvement, personal development, people satisfaction, trust, and so forth. So ito yung mga benefits when you have people who are engaged and competent and empowered in your organization. Okay, this is what I said, that this has been the start where the ISO standard introduced this. They call this a process approach, which we will go in deeper later. The process approach is consistent, and to have a consistent and predictable results are achieved when activities are understood and managed. Remember, kung ikaw ay nagma-manufacture ng isang makina, gusto mo yung kalidad o yung quality ng produkto na ginawa mo sa unang makina should be duplicated several times. So there should be consistency and predictability. Hindi ito parang lagi ka lang, hindi ka nasa laboratory experimentation ng trip mo lang na gawin kaya ginawa mo itong produkto. No, you have a customer that you need to satisfy and satisfy the expectations. So you need to have a consistency and predictability. And the rationale or the reason is that QMS or the quality management system consists of these interrelated processes and requires understanding of it. So hindi lang pala sa kaya kasi natin siya tinawag na sistema no? Ibig sabihin hindi lang nag-iisang isang proseso na ginagawa mo no. Magkakadugtong. A classic example ating katawan, di ba? Ang ating katawan ay binubuo ng napakaraming sistema. Our body is a complete system having different systems in place. Meron tayong circulatory system, meron tayong reproductive system, meron tayong respiratory system. At sa loob ng bawat mga sistemang yun, may mga prosesong nagaganap like sa digestive system. Bago makarating sa sikmura mo yung pagkain, kailangan mo muna ipasok sa bibig mo. Ngunguyain mo. With the help of your saliva, matutunaw yun, pupunta yun sa... Kumbaga, there is an interrelated processes that requires understanding of it in order for you to optimize the system. Unless and until you understand each and every process, you could not be able to optimize or maximize the use of your system to enhance performance. That is the rationale or the logic behind it. And these are the benefits. No? You need to have a focus. You can have a focus on your key processes. As I said, consistency and predictability of the results. And optimize performance, resources, so on and so forth. Kasi nga, hindi lang sapat na nagpo-produce ka ng produkto mo. No? Kailangan efficient ka rin. Ang sabi ng standard, efficiency has something to do with achieving what you are intended to achieve and in relation to your resources. So kung isa sa mga resources may oras, hindi po pwede na makailang ulit mong gagawin niya para lang magawa mo yung isang produkto mo yun. No? So you need to have an effective and efficient process so that you can optimize and maximize the benefits of your system. The next is improvement. Like all management systems, the objective of the ISO 9001 standard is for improvement. In order for a company to focus, so successful companies normally focuses on the continuous improvement. Ibig sabihin, walang tigil. Continuous means walang patlang. Tuloy-tuloy siya. No? So, why is it? Because it is essential to maintain the current level of performance and then react to changes, whether internal or external conditions, and create opportunities. So, ito yung logika or the logic behind why we need to have an improvement. You need to know where you are right now. So you need to know the level of your performance. Currently, what are the changes that happen? Remember, ang buhay natin napaka-dynamic. Especially when it happens about this pandemic, hindi natin malalaman, bigla na lang ganito nangyari. No? Walang nakapag-predict. No? Kung anong ginagawa mo later on, 1 minute from now will be different from 1 minute ago. No? So you need to be aware about the changes that are happening internally and externally as far as the organization is concerned. And out of those changes, you need to create opportunities. And classic example of that is this pandemic. Napakaraming lumabas na oportunidad because of this pandemic. Yung mga taong nakulong sa loob ng bahay during that time, ang daming naisip. So, yung mga ito ay napaka-classic example of an improvement. You try to improve yourself. And these are the benefits. I don't want to read each and everything. No? But the main objective of the improvement is to enhance your process, enhance the anticipation and reaction to risk and opportunities, drive for innovation, and enhance or improve performance and customer satisfaction. So let us go to the sixth, no? Evidence-based decision making. Sabi ko nga, hindi naman mag-aaksaya ng oras, ng resources, ng manpower ang isang kumpanya, magbabayad pa yan para maging auditor ka kasi kailangan ka i-train, i-develop yung sistema kung wala naman silang mapapala dito sa ISO 9001 standard. It means they're aiming or they're expecting, okay, that out of this management system standard, you need to facilitate, okay, their decision making. But remember this, decision making not just simply based from hunch or yung gut feeling, hindi ganon. evidence-based. Ibig sabihin, meron kang pinag-uhugutan. There is a basis on why you are doing that decision. And decisions based on analysis and evaluation of data produce desired results. So this is primarily the reason why the management needs to have a system in place para kung sakali, okay, paulit-ulit na gagawin na lang niya yung ginawa niyang analysis and evaluation of data. Okay, that's the essence of having a system. Hindi siya dependent sa taong gumagawa. Kasi bukas makalawa yung gumagawang yun, naka-pirate na sa ibang kumpanya o sorry to say, nag-retire na kasi sobrang katandaan. At kung siya lang nakakaalam nun, babagsak ang kumpanyang kasama siya. No? That is the reason why there is a system in place. The rationale or the logic behind it is that because of uncertainty, hindi mo sigurado eh. Decision making is complex and requires understanding of the cause and effect relationship. And the factual evidence and data analysis provide greater objectivity. Hindi mo kailangan ng emotions kasi alam mo sa business at lahat naman ng mga tao na sa business, yan ang isa sa mga kinakatakutan eh. No? When your emotion came into the picture when you are doing your decision. Kaya nga, di ba sinasabi nila, pag magdi-decision ka on a personal basis, huwag ka magdi-decision ng sobrang saya mo or sobrang lungkot mo or galit ka. No? Kasi hindi ka nasa tamang balanse ng pag-iisip. No? And that level of confidence should have in your decision making. And these are the benefits of having the evidence-based decision making. Okay? If in case that you have question, kung napapabilis ang pagsasalita ko or sabihan niyo lang po ako. No? Once in a while, yung babasa po ako ng message niyo. And last but not the least is relationship management. Your business, like any kind of business, will only be sustained when you keep your relationship intact. Relationship among your colleagues, as your internal customer, relationship with your clients as your external customer, and other stakeholders or other interested parties. Kasi kapag nakipag-away ka sa regulator mo, bingo ka. Baka anytime na lang, bibigyan ka hahanapan ka ng pagkakamali, ng butas. No? So, you need to always keep that relationship intact. So, you need to have a proper management for the relationship. No? To sustain success by managing the relationship with relevant interested parties. And normally, the level of management of your interested parties depending on the level of their influence and power or authority. Okay? Later on, makikita natin yan. No? Kasi may mga stakeholder na, okay, may pakialam sila being interested party, pero wala silang ganun kalakas na impluensya or otoridad para makumbinsi ang management niya. Meron naman, wala man silang gaanong involvement sa management ninyo, pero kapag nagdesisyon sila, malaki ang magiging impact sa organization niya. For example, yung mga regulators, no? Mataas ang authority niya sa organization, no? Ginawang decision niyan, apektado ka kahit na hindi yan ganun kalakas ang involvement sa kumpanya ninyo. Pag may ginawang decision niya, apektado ka. No? Where in fact, yung mga external providers nyo, yung mga suppliers nyo, no? Malaki ang involvement nila kasi kailangan nila magbigay ng raw material sa inyo or ng serbisyo sa inyo para magawa mo yung produkto mo at yung serbisyo mo sa mga customers mo. Pero wala naman silang ganun kalakas na otoridad para maapektuhan yung management nyo. So this balance between influence and authority in your company is the rationale or the logic why you need to manage your relationships. So different stakeholders or interested parties have different approach in managing them. And these are the key benefits of that. No? So common understanding, alam niyo kasi kung interested party yan, may pakialam yan sa nangyayari sa kumpanya mo. No? So hindi ka lang nag-iisa. Sabi, no man is an island. Either sila maka-apekto sa iyo or sila yung ma-apektuhan mo. So they need to understand also what is happening in your organization. So let's go now to the process approach and risk-based thinking. I hope you understood the quality management principles. As I said, lahat ng mga prinsipyong yun ay nakapaloob at maiintindihan at ini-embrace ng isang organisasyon na gustong mapacertify sa ISO 9001. Otherwise, there's no point of being certified in a system wherein your beliefs, your understanding, your norms, your values are contradicting to these management principles. Okay, now let's go to the process approach and risk-based thinking. Sa 9001, pinakita ito bago pa man ng quality management framework. Ano ibig sabihin nito? Pinapakita lang na sinasabi ng standard ng ISO 9001 standard na pagka nag-analyze ka ng sistema mo, dapat ito base sa proseso, bawat proseso. And you will see here, this is the flow chart of a process approach. Okay, wherein this is a representation of a single process. Wherein meron kang sources of input coming from your suppliers, customers, regulators, ano yung hinihingi nila, no? Ano yung kaya nilang ibigay na hinihingi. Ito yung makaya nilang ibigay. Like information with regards, as far as customer, ito yung specification na kailangan ko. So yun yung information na kaya niyang ibigay. Regulator, ito yung batas na nagpapaloob dyan sa produkto at serbisyo mo, itong kaya kong ibigay. No? So different interested parties, your customers and your external providers have information that can help you to help you in your process in achieving your output. No? So after knowing this information, sabi ng standard, okay, kakailanganin mo, after mong malaman kung ano yung pangangailangan ng mga interested parties mo, kakailanganin mo na yung actual, these are tangible. Pag tangible, nakikita, nahahawakan, naaamoy, ito yung mga kailangan mo para mag-proceed ng isang proseso. So matter, energy, information, like kailangan mo ng ideas, sa plano, sa concept, sa pagpa-conceptualize ng idea mo, na pag-planning mo, yung paggagawa ng blueprint mo. So that is information. Kailangan mo ng materials, metal, steel, copper. Kailangan mo yan. So these are the inputs to your process. Now there is what you call activities here. Activities can be it is part of your process. So ito yung nasa loob ng proseso mo. So interrelated ito, dugtong-dugtong itong mga activities na to, starting from this point and to this point. Expecting that after mong magawa itong mga activities na to, meron kang output. Output may not be your final product or services. Kasi remember, process approach ito. Ibig sabihin, yung output mo ng prosesong ito can be the input of another process. Gaya nga ng sinabi ko, ating katawan, no? Maraming proseso nangyayari sa digestive system pa lang. So yung lumabas na sa ating lalamunan, babagsak siya sa ating sikmura, pupunta sa sa intestines natin, so on and so forth. So bawat yung output ng isang proseso, nagiging input ng susunod na proseso. And obviously, kaya ka gumagawa ng isang output kasi meron kang expected na tatanggap. Ito yung mga receivers mo. Either your customers, relevant parties. As I said, it doesn't necessarily mean that your output is already your final product and services. Because the output of your first process can be the input of your second process, so on and so forth. Until such time that you have achieved your intended result. And your intended result is nothing but your products and services and enhancement in your customer satisfaction. Yun yung intended result na gusto mo. Hindi lang sapat na maibigay ko yung produkto at yung serbisyo. Kailangan satisfied lang yung aking customer. Okay? And you will notice sa baba nito, okay? Sa baba nito, meron tinatawag na controls. Okay? Yung controls na yan, actually, bawat stages ng iyong proseso, dapat may control ka. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, hindi lang sapat na alam mo yung impormasyon, maaaring hindi siya akma doon sa dapat na gawin. So, dapat meron kang review and evaluation process of your information. For example, I'm just citing an example. So, mga input natin, yung raw material mo, Sapat ba yung quality ng raw material na gagamitin mo para doon sa hinihingi ng produkto o gusto mong gawing produkto. So, bawat stages of your process, each stage of your process requires controls and checkpoints para meron kang way to evaluate which part of your process requires improvement. So that, para lang yung dinadissect mo, no? Saan dito ang posibleng magkaroon ng mali. So, kailangan meron kang controls and checkpoints to measure and monitor your performance. Actually, this entire process of having controls and checkpoints are nothing but your risk-based thinking. Diba ganun naman tayo sa kung kayo familiar sa health and safety risk assessment, inaalam natin sa bawat proseso kung ano yung pwedeng mangyari ng pagkakamali na magre-resulta sa aksidente. Sa kasong ito, ano yung mga posibleng mangyari along the stages of the process that will deviate, ano ba ibig sabihin deviate, na iba dun sa expected mong resulta. So these controls and checkpoints will help you to monitor and measure your level of performance. Okay? So this is your process approach. So process approach, just to give you a summary, defines and manages processes and their interactions to achieve intended results according to the quality policy and direction of the organization. Okay? And how it is applied in the QMS, it is to understand and have a consistency in meeting the requirements. You need to have an added value. Hindi lang sapat na meron ka lang na pinoproduce, no? Dapat may napapala yung customer sa iyo. Anong dahilan bakit kailangan bilhin ng customer yung produkto at yung serbisyo mo? You need to have an effective process performance. As I said, effective because you are trying to attain an intended result. Meron kang gustong mangyari, no? Kailangan yun ang gusto mong mangyari. And improve processes based on your evaluation of data and information. Okay? So, what about risk-based thinking? Sabi ko nga, each and every stage of your process requires risk-based thinking. Ano yung pwedeng mangyari dito kung sakaling hindi siya magde-deviate ba sa intended? Remember, risk-based thinking enables the organization to determine factors that may cause its processes and its QMS. Remember, processes and its QMS to deviate from the planned results, place preventive controls, and minimize negative effects. Bakit? Kasi, mapapansin ninyo, dito sa standard na to and all the new standards, wala ng preventive action. Noon kasi, pag sinabing preventive, from the word prevent, preventive action normally is to eliminate the potential non-conformities. Then afterwards, you will analyze it and then you will take action so that it will not happen again. Commensurate or to the same level ng impact niyan. Pero dahil ginagawa mo na ngayon risk-based approach, na sa umpisa pa lang, inaalam mo na kung anong pwedeng mangyari at binibigyan mo na siya ng karampatang solusyon by placing appropriate controls, then you don't need the preventive action. It is embedded in the risk-based thinking. That's why preventive action has been removed from the management system standards. Now, instead of knowing what will be done, kasi reactive kasi yung preventive action, may nangyari na tapos saka ka ngayon maglalagay ng action, no? Para ma-prevent siya. Samantalang, in the risk-based thinking, you need to plan and implement actions to address risks and opportunities. So it means that from the start, you should know what are the risks and opportunities, you plan how to deal with it, and take actions. So it is a proactive means of addressing your risks and opportunities. But remember, what is the meaning of risk? Risk is the effect of uncertainty. So, hindi ka sigurado. Yun lang naman ibig sabihin na uncertainty. You are not sure about it. And the effect of that can be positive or negative. Meaning, hindi ibig sabihin na negative, hindi ibig sabihin masama ang risk. No? Pwede kasing maganda ang risk. Pwede maging positive siya, pwede din siya maging negative. So it means like when there is a deviation, hindi natupad yung in-expect mo sa intended result mo o yung produkto at serbisyo mo, pero napaganda pa ito, positive siya. Pero kapag hindi siya natupad at hindi na siya natupad, tapos hindi pa siya napaganda, negative siya. So that is the definition of risk. No? So in the risk-based thinking, we will now go to another standard. Although we will not be dwelling it so much, just to give an idea, the interrelationship of the ISO standards. Pag inalam mo yung risk-based thinking, dapat familiar ka sa ISO 31000, which is the risk management standard. Na kung saan, magkukonda ka ng risk assessment mo, first you need to understand the scope and context and the criteria of your risk. Tapos, aalamin mo, ano ba to? No? Ito yung, kinuha ko ito sa ISO 31000 standard. No? Nakapaloob pala sa risk assessment yung risk identification, risk analysis, and then risk evaluation. After you have evaluated the risk, then that's the time, iti-treat mo ngayon siya. Bibigyan mo na siya ng solusyon. You will have your decision whether are you going to keep the risk, you will reduce the risk, you will avoid the risk, or you will transfer the risk. And along this process, you need to have a consistent communication, monitoring and review, and recording and reporting. And this is a cyclic process, iterative process yan. No? Paikot-ikot na nangyayari yan. So going back to that, just to give an idea, what is risk identification, you need to identify the risk involved. What are the factors that may affect your products and services and impact your customer satisfaction? At the end, ano yung makaka-apekto sa proseso mo at entire QMS mo. Then after that, pag nalaman mo na yung risk na involved na rin. Okay? Ano yung level of the risk, no? Gaano ba siya kadalas mangyari? Frequency. Severity, gaano siya kalala kapag nangyari? And nowadays, sa mga nangyayari sa paligid natin because of the Russian invasion to Ukraine, pati yung gaano siya kabilis mangyari. So, dynamic, meaning, hindi ka lang kontento na alam mo na, okay, mangyayari ito, at ganito ang mangyayari. Pero ang question ngayon is, gaano siya kabilis? So, there is a factor of speed. So, there is a time factor. Gaano siya kabilis mangyari? Kasi every minute, every second counts sa nangyayari ngayon sa Russia and Ukraine, sa Europe, hindi natin alam. Remember, Chernobyl currently is located in Ukraine, and currently it is being occupied by the Russians. No? Ano ngayon ang implication nito? I was messaging in LinkedIn the IAEA. Ano ba hanggang ngayon di pa rin kayo kumikilos? Kapag nagkaroon ng spillover ang radioactive materials diyan, hindi lang Europe ang apektado. So, ano bang nangyayari na? So this kind of analysis needs to evaluate if you are a business owner having a branch in Europe, for example, or you have customers or clients in Europe, particularly in Russia, for example, Ukraine, Poland, what will happen to your business? No? Sa mga nangyayaring ito, no? So dynamic risk analysis should be done. Every minute counts. And after that, you have defined your risk tolerance. We call that criteria. We try to compare. Babanggain ngayon natin yung criteria natin. Ito ang acceptable sa amin na risk. Hanggang dito lang kami. Ito yung current risk. Ano? Tatanggapin ba natin ng risk? Are we going to accept it? Considering the current scenario and the current controls we have? Are we going to implement additional controls so that we can reduce the risk? Are we going to avoid it once and for all? Ayoko ng sakit ng ulo, tigil natin ang operation na for the meantime. Ganun ba yun? Or are we going to transfer the risk? O sige, meron namang kumpanya doon na they can handle our products and services. Can we give this like sharing or transfer, risk transfer like contractor? This kind of things are being done in the risk evaluation stage. You're trying to compare the level of your acceptability risk against the current risk that your company is encountering at this point. So as I said, I'm not dealing much about this kasi may separate standard dito. No? I think na ituro ko na ito before when I discussed the risk management. And after knowing the level of your risk at yung acceptability criteria mo ay nagmamatch ba doon o hindi, Ngayon bibigyan ng treatment yung risk. I-avoid mo ba siya all in all? Or pababayaan mo na lang siya? Are you going to accept it? Are you going to transfer, exploit? All these things are part of the risk treatment. No? And after that, you need to monitor it regularly and review so that you are aware what is happening. That's the reason why leadership is very important in the management system. You are not just simply satisfied to what is happening now. You need to have a long-term plan, goal. You have a vision that will happen, that what will happen to your organization. So, sabi ko, if your risk deviated in favor to you at napaganda yung produkto at serbisyo mo, ang tawag doon positive risk. So, hindi masama yung risk, no? Kung ito naman ang magre-resulta naman nito ay improvement sa iyong produkto at serbisyo. An example of that is, for example, in project management. You have calculated, part of project management, kailangan ng budget, no? Kinakalculate mo yung budget. Eh, natapos mo ngayon yung budget. Yung proyekto, na meron ka pang naiwan sa bulsa mo. Ibig sabihin, nakatipid yung kumpanya. Natapos niya yung produkto at serbisyo niya without compromising the quality. And yet, meron ka pang savings. So, nag-deviate siya doon sa budget requirement mo. And yet, napaganda yung impact sa'yo. So, positive risk siya. In the supply chain, for example, you have delivery of products and services that are ahead of schedule. Positive siya. You have constructed a building, for example, that's supposed to be will survive for 20 years, pero nabuhay siya hanggang 30 years. And for example, meron kang bagong produkto, no? iPhone 25, no? Tinalunan mo na yung 14 to 24, no? Masyado ka ng advance, no? iPhone 25. So, napaganda yung marketing strategy mo, nakakuha ka ng sobrang ganda ng attention. So, during launching, maganda yun, no? Positive risk yan. And of course, sorry to say, merong positive risk sa organization, pero merong negative risk sa tao, no? For example, when you introduce a technology, supposed to be 10 tao sana magtatrabaho dito sa departamentong to, kaya lang dahil naggamit tayo ng technology, digital na nga, di ba? Kinailangan na lang natin ng 2 tao. So, walang tao, negative risk sa kanila. Samantala sa kumpanya, positive yun kasi nakabawas yun sa gastos. No? So, these are positive risks. But take note of this. Positive deviation arising from risk can provide opportunities. Sabi ko nga ganon, kung merong nag-deviate na positive, pwede siya maging oportunidad kasi pwede mong take advantage yan. However, not all positive effects of risk, so hindi lahat ng positive risk, will result in opportunities. Bakit? Why? Can anyone tell me why? Just to have an idea, can you place it in your chat box to have interaction. Bakit sa tingin ninyo? Even one word lang, I will try to understand what you mean by this. Bakit sa tingin ninyo, kahit na meron ng positive risk, hindi pa rin siya maging oportunidad dun sa organisasyon? Bakit? As I said, I wanted everyone not just simply read what is the standard requires, but to have a critical analysis, understanding why. Why is it that, in this case, positive risks are not at all always result in opportunities? Compromise, based from Mr. Lawrence de Rojas. Anyone? Continual sacrificing other worker, continual improvement, changes. Anything more? Siguro mga another set two or more entries bago ko sabihin ang dahilan. Okay, I think everyone benefits. Okay, now, balikan natin ngayon, bakit ba tayo gumagawa ng management system? Kasi, ginawa natin gusto nating mapacertify ang ating organisasyon sa ISO 9001 standard, okay, the quality management system, because we want our organization to to achieve its intended result, which is to enhance the customer satisfaction and provide superb quality and quality services and products. Sorry. So, bakit? Bakit hindi lahat ng positive risk? Kasi maaaring positive risk siya, pero hindi siya sakop ng scope ng organization mo. Bakit kami? For example, alam natin na yung organization, for example, is a transport company. Okay, meron kang truck, 100. Okay. Pero nakitaan mo na, okay, dito sa binanggit ko na napabilis yung delivery. Kaya lang, local lang yung availability mo. Hindi mo pwedeng ibigay yung produktong yun overseas. Kasi by land ka lang. So, the positive risk that deviated having a, what you call this, resulting in early delivery cannot be used in this case as your opportunity. Kasi nga, hindi mo kayang i-satisfy yung requirement na yon dahil may kakulangan ka either in your resources, in your capability. So it means hindi siya sakop ng iyong organisasyon. I hope you understand what I mean. Pwedeng sayang oportunidad ko na sana kaya lang wala akong ganito. Sayang kasi hindi siya sakop ng produkto at serbisyo ko. Nakitaan mo na na merong potential. There's a positive risk for that. But because you have limited resources, that particular service and product is not within the scope of your organization, hindi mo siya magamit as maging mga oportunidad mo. It will remain to be a positive risk, but it cannot be converted to opportunity. I hope you understand what I shared about it. If you have questions later, we can discuss about this. Okay. So, bibigyan ko lang kayo ng example ng isang proseso kasi para lang masabi na meron tayong example, no? On the process approach, meron tayong procurement process. Sabi, di ba, pagka sa procurement, kabisado niyo na ito lahat, no? Lahat naman tayo bumibili, no? Kailangan mong malaman muna bago ka bumili kung ano yung pangangailangan mo, no? Hindi ka po pwede pupunta na lang sa isang tindahan na hindi mo naman alam kung ano gusto mo, no? You need to identify your need. Then, i-evaluate mo sino yung mga nagsusupply sa'yo. Saka ka lang mamimili, no? Based on your standard or your requirement. Tapos makikipag-negotiate ka. Magkano siya, kung sa Divisoria o sa Quiapo ka bibili, ano ba? Tingi-tingi ba o bultuhan? Ano ba? Ganun, no? And then after that, you will try to approve yung request, yung purchase requisition. Then, you will release the purchase order. Isasend mo na ngayon doon sa supplier. Then, that's the time only marireceive no supplier yung invoice. Then that's the time, i-receive and i-deliver na ngayon at i-audit na ngayon kung tama ba yung produktong binigay, yung bang i-inspect nila yan, tama ba yung specification na nasunod ba yung specification na hinihingi namin. So lahat yun, no? Itingnan. Then that's the time only na babayaran ngayon yung serbisyo at yung produktong binili mo, dapat yan naka-record. Bakit? Kasi bukas makalawa, ayaw mo na namang umulit na maghanap ka na naman ng mga supplier sa isang product or the same product. Or at least you have a basis on what are the things that have been done and in the process of buying the product and the services. So meron kang basihan, no? For record keeping. So may historical information ka, yun ang purpose ng record. Kasi kailangan mo yan in your performance evaluation. Sabi nga natin, di ba? That is part of your decision making. You need to have an evidence-based decision making. Kailangan may ebidensya ka. Hindi lang sa trip mo, gusto ko ngayon tong kumpanya to, bukas makalawa ibang kumpanya naman. Hindi gano'n, no? Meron kang pinagbabasihan. But remember, this is a procurement process. And within each and every process, there are activities going on. Dito sa payment process mo, sa number 8, sa loob niyan, may nangyayari pa. Di ba? Kolektahin mo yung invoice, babasahin mo yung invoice kung tama, tapos i-retrieve mo yung purchase order, i-verify mo kung tama ba, nagmamatch ba yung presyo na binigay sa yung una, tapos yung binigay sa yung invoice, lahat-lahat ng mga requirements, nandoon ba? Accuracy. And then that's the time ilalagay mo na ngayon siya kung ikay gumagamit ng ERP system or enterprise research program, ilalagay mo siya. Otherwise, kung manual yan, ilagay mo sa folder at i-file mo, no? Then saka ka magbabayad. So this kind of process, these are activities within the process. Okay? These are activities within the process. So it means that it may result to exposure of law in other processes in the company. Okay, yes, thank you, ma'am. So it means like ito yung activities within the process. So balikan natin, itong payment process is just part of the procurement process. So ganun natin ina-analyze ang sinasabi ng standard, ganun natin dapat i-analyze ang bawat proseso natin at ang quality management system natin should be based on process approach. Okay? Now, question. I want everyone to participate. What is or are the minimum requirement or requirements that ISO 9001 quality management systems need to satisfy? A, customer requirement. B, statutory and regulatory requirements, no commonly called legal requirements, or both A and B. Pakilagay po ang mga sagot. KCC, Roger Mr. Roger Flores, JP Bathan, CC, Joel Shane, Christian, Mr. Jobert Castillo. B, legal requirements, Dean Clifford Joan, CC, both Lawrence Reyes, so forth. Lawrence De Rojas, A, then Joffren Gagarin, Panfilo, CC, Arnel, hindi ko na mababasa lahat, no? Joel Paramo, A, both, Erica Villegas, A and B, so on and so forth. Thanks po sa lahat na nag-participate. I really appreciate. Okay? Now, the thing is, ang tanong, ang sagot, ano bang sagot, no? Makikita natin sa susunod na slides, no? Ayoko munang sagutin. Kumbaga ating sabay nating alamin yung sagot. Okay? Take note, magkaiba po ang ang magkaiba ang ang legal requirement. Sorry, magkaiba ang statutory where is that?
Doc, puro C rin sa Facebook. Both A and B ang
Puro
sagot.
C?
Oo, puro C.
Ako po. Teka nga. Paano ko ba Anyway, hindi ko na mabalik sa dati. Hindi ko na alam kung saan ko. Anyway. Sorry. Nawala na ako.
Ano nyo na lang po ulit, exit siguro na. Tapos, enter.
Desado. Tayo dito, no? Okay. Sorry technology. Okay, gusto nating malaman kung anong sagot, no? Okay, let's go to the next slide. Papasok muna tayo sa Quality Management System Framework. Okay, bago ko pumunta doon sa details ng ISO 9001, Okay? Alamin muna natin ano ba yung standard ngayon, no? Hinihingi na standard ngayon. Okay. Meron ng tinatawag na high-level structure, which is a standardized way of drafting future ISO. Ginawa ito so that mas madali natin, it's easier for us to integrate the management systems developed by ISO. Okay, so they call that Annex SL. So that there will be a common framework, standardized text, isa yung terminologies na ginagamit, isa-isang definition na pinag-uusapan natin. Then we can have common major clauses and titles, and there are common terms and definitions. No? However, while the high-level structure cannot be changed, the sub-clauses and the discipline-specific text can be added. No? Makikita natin yan later. And with the new structure applicable to all ISO management system standards, it will be much easier to implement the multiple integrated management systems, which is the objective of our organization. That's why we are doing this, what you call this, management system. Ano ba dito yung magbubura ko? Eraser. Ba't walang eraser? Anyway. Now, let's go to this. Ito yung high-level structure ng Annex SL. No? And these are the benefits of having the 9001 standard, certified under the 9001 standard 2015. So yung clause 1, 2, and 3, these are common standards, because are common clauses of all the standards. So the scope, which is the scope of the management system standard, particularly for that particular standard, the normative references or the references used in the development of the standard, and the terms and definitions used for the standard. Typically, common ito. Okay? In the case of ISO 9001, hindi nyo makikita sa standard yung clause 3. Kasi yung clause 3, wherein the terms and definitions were separated and made into one guideline or one guidance. Yun yung ISO 9000. So kung gusto mo malaman lahat ng mga terminologies na ginamit sa ISO 9001 standard, nandun siya sa ISO 9000. Okay, hindi siya makikita sa 9001. Okay? Now, with regards to ISO 9001 2015 version of the standard, it starts from clause number 4 until clause number 10. Okay? And these are the benefits. If you have the 9001, these are the benefits. Customer consistency in producing your products and services, the quality of the product services, enhancement of your customer satisfaction, so on and so forth. Okay? This is actually the, what you call this? The PDCA, or the framework of your ISO 9001. Natanong ko kanina kung ano ang minimum requirement na 9001. Some of you have answered customer requirement. Others, they answered statutory and regulatory requirement, which is nothing but the legal requirements. Remember, magkaibang statutory, ibang regulatory. Statutory, ito yung mga batas, obligatory requirement na binigay sa atin ng legislation. Ito yung mga batas, ito yung mga, or even in the Philippine setup, meron tayong tinatawag na case law, no? Ito yung mga batas na produkto ng desisyon ng Korte Suprema. Nagiging batas din siya, no? Kasi maraming klase ng batas sa Pilipinas. No? Una yung tinatawag nila common law. Common law, kaya tinatawag na common law. From the Roman Empire, sila yung gumamit na ito. Ito yung mga batas from the legislation. Kasi kaya nga tayo may tinatawag na Congress divided into two. House of Representative na kung saan hinahalal ng tao, at ganoon naman ang upper chamber, ang Senate of the Philippines, kung saan hinalal din ng tao. In short, parehas silang hinalal ng tao. Kaya tinawag na common law. Kasi it is expected that they will serve the common people, yung populace. No? Kasi noong mga panahon, iba yung mga aristokrata, iba yung mga hari reyna, iba yung mga commoners. No? That's a common law. Yung case law, ito yung mga batas naman na dinevelop na dahil sa Korte Suprema. Kaya kay case law, no? Cases, no? And they call that Anglo-American law. Kasi nung after ng Treaty of Paris, na kung saan doon natapos yung hidwaan between Amerika at saka ng Espanyol, ng Spain. Kaya na yung ating no, pag-occupy sa atin, no, after the Treaty of Paris, inadapt yun, no, yung case law na yun. Then, meron tayo sa Pilipinas na customary law. Ito yung mga batas dahil sa customs. Ito yung mga for indigenous people like in the Cordillera region, mga Ibaloy. Meron silang mga hinagis ng mga ginagawa, no, na ginagamit ng batas, no, kinukonsider ng Republika ng Pilipinas na batas. Remember, ang optimal or supreme law is nothing but the Constitution of the Philippines, na dapat lahat ng batas na gagawin at lahat ng mga desisyon ng Korte Suprema na magiging batas later should be in accordance or in line with the Constitution of the Philippines. And last but not the least, dahil meron tayong mga kapatid na mga Muslim, at dahil minsan na rin tayo naging Muslim nation, bago tayo sinakop ng mga Espanyol, meron Sharia law, na kung saan ito yung batas ng mga Muslims, kinoconsider yun. Yun ang batas ng Pilipinas, no? In totality. So, ba't ko sinabi? Kasi magkaibang statutory, ibang regulatory. Statutory, ini-impose sa'yo ng legislation nyo. Ang regulatory, ini-impose sa'yo ng isang otoridad dahil hinihingi ng isang batas. Kaya, for example, babalikan natin, no? Although this is quality management system, familiar tayo sa health and safety. Di ba meron tayong Republic Act 11058, no? Yun yung strengthening the occupational safety and health law ng Pilipinas and its punishment, no? Yun ay statutory law kasi galing yun sa isang legislation. Pero bago mo ipatupad yan, inatasan ang DOLE, specifically ang OSH Center, para mag-develop ng pamantayan, guideline on how that law will be implemented and will be regulated. So, gumawa ng DO 198, which is the Implementing Rules and Regulations. Ganon ang kaibahan ng statutory at regulatory. So, going back to this structure, nakasulat dito, customary requirement. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Customary requirement po ba ang sagot? Parang mukha, no? Pero tingnan natin later on. No? Sabi ko nga ganon, we will try to dwell into this and answer that particular question. Mga magkakasama tayo. Okay. So, papansinin natin sa structure na to ng customer requirements ang nakalagay. No? Tingnan natin dito, ano ba ibig sabihin ng PDCA as far as ISO 9001 is concerned? Plan is to establish the objective of the system and its processes and the resources needed to deliver results in accordance to customers' requirements and organizations' policies, identify, address risk and opportunities. So kahit sa plan pala, nakasulat na customer requirements lang. No? Let's go to do. Pag na-plano mo daw pala siya, kailangan mo ngayon i-implement yung plano mo, which is obvious. And after that, after you have done it, you need to monitor and measure your processes and the resulting products and services. Yung checking mo to evaluate your performance. And last but not the least, you need to take actions to improve your performance. That is part of your act. So dito, sa this stage, parang lumalabas customer requirements ang sagot. No? But let's go more deeper. Tingnan natin. Babalikan natin, meron tayong 3 standard na gagawin sa buwan na to. Bakit ko pinakita to? No? I don't want to preempt or I don't want to spoil other standards. Just to have a critical evaluation, critical analysis of this thing. No? Papansinin niyo yung 14,001 at yung 45,001, yung structure na halos parehas. Na kung saan yung PDCA ay naka-specific doon sa clauses of planning, the 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Of course, ando doon yung worker participation of 45,000, that is obvious, no? Yan, napaka-unique niya. Pero kung papansinin mo, yung 14,001, parehas siya nung sa 45,001. Pero pag tiningin mo sa 9,001, para magkaiba yung cycle niya. Yes, it is PDCA. No question about that. But why is it is so different? Well, in fact, 9,001 and 14,001 were both released on same year. Hindi naman siguro na trip-trip lang nilang ginawa yan, no? May dahilan siguro naman, no? Naisip niyo po ba or napansin niyo po ba yan sa mga taong may experience na sa PD sa ating management systems, no? Napansin niyo po ba? Kasi ako, kailan ko lang siya napansin, to be honest. Okay? At hindi ko naalala na merong nagturo sa akin na mga unang nag-discuss nito kung ano yung kaibahan nila, bakit siya may kaibahan. No? O una, magkaiba yung cycle nila. Pangalawa, papansinin niyo, no? Si 14,001 at si 45,001, scope, yung context of the organization niya, ipapasok niya doon sa loob. Kasama na yung internal and external. Pero kung papansinin mo dito, hindi lang sapat yung context of the organization, may customer requirements din siya inilagay. And take note, pag tingnan nyo, sa 45,001, ang nakasulat scope, nandito, oh. Ganon din siya dito, oh. Pero pansinin yung quality. Quality management system. Bakit? Isa pa sa kaibahan, no? Yung intended outcome ni 45,001, one direction lang, palabas. Ganun lang din ito, palabas. Samantalang, si 9,001, bidirectional. Meaning, pwedeng pumasok, pwedeng lumabas. Nakapansin niyo ba kayo yan? Napansin niyo po ba yan? The question is why? Alam niyo, hindi naman, remember, ang ISO hindi gumagawa ng isang bagay yan o maglalagay ng isang bagay nang walang dahilan. Especially, what they wanted is to integrate all of these standards. So when you try to integrate all of this, and that's the reason ba't mo siya integrate para magkaroon ng isang standard. Pag may pagkakaiba, dapat may dahilan. Dapat tinatanong natin yan. Hindi lang tayo dapat satisfied kung okay, ito yung structure eh. Anong gagawin ko? We are not leaders if we are not thinking like leaders if that is the case, which is the requirement of our management system. We need to think, we need to critically analyze. No? Okay, I'll give you an example. Bakit, no? Ayokong mag-preempt doon sa No? Una, pansinin ninyo, bakit quality management system ang nasa sa standard ng 9,001? Where in fact, sa loob ng square na ito, sa 14 and 45,001, scope ang nakalagay. Kasi, the quality management system framework is not only limited to QMS elements, yung clause 4 to 10, no. This quality management system framework applies also to all processes. Why it's very important that I stress that. Di ba sinabi natin yung process, laging may input, may output. At yung yung output ng unang proseso, siyang nagiging input na susunod na proseso. Kaya yung resulta, this one, the result of kung i-apply ko yung unang proseso, gagamitin ko itong PDCA na to, meron akong unang produkto, unang output. Na yung unang output na yon, gagamitin ko siya as input to my next process. That's the reason why there is what you call bidirectional here. Kasi kailangan bumalik yung information na yon, yung kung ano man yung produkto at serbisyo na lumabas doon sa unang proseso kasi kakailanganin ko siya for my second process. And as I said, The difference of this framework is not only limited to the elements of the quality management system, but also to the processes that takes place in the management system. That's the reason why do sa 14 at 45,001, hindi niya kailangan i-emphasize na environmental management system or occupational health and safety management system. Hindi katulad dito sa 9,001. Kasi dun sa dalawa, 14 and 45,001, talagang elements lang talaga siya ng respective management system ang nakapokus sa kanya. Hindi kasama yung processes. Dito sa quality management system, kasama yung processes na gumagamit ng PDCA framework na ito. Now, another thing na gusto kong ipakita sa inyo. Bawat clause dito, kasama yung, or naka-specify mismo, yung clause ng planning sa P, sa D naman sa C and A. Samantalang sa framework na ito, hindi siya specifically nakalagay. Dapat ito pwede namang ilagay rito P. Copy na lang natin, di ba? Pwede naman yun. Bakit? Napasin niyo ba bakit? Natanong niyo po ba kung bakit? Kasi, balikan natin yung, kasi nakalagay rito, resources needed to deliver results. Okay? Sa P ng planning clause, wala dyan ng resources mo. Kailangan mo siya sa planning stage mo in your plan, do, check, act. But since planning clause does not include your resources for your processes, that's the reason why they have not specifically assigned the P of your PDCA only for your planning clause. Ngayon, saan galing yung resources na kung saan hinihingi ng plan mo? Resource needed. Saan? Tingnan natin sa mga susunod na slide. Okay? Nakuha? Hindi pa tayo mapasok sa framework, ha? Paunang lang ito, no? Pasensya na kung napiling nyo nahabaan na kayo. Kailangan ko lang i-emphasize to kasi sabi ko nga, ako hindi ko to narinig sa mga unang nagturo sa akin. Okay? Ang gusto ko, maintindihan ninyo para mas madali ninyong ma-implement itong management system na ito. Okay. In the context of the organization, there are 4 requirements that you need to satisfy. Ito yun eh. Organization, its context. Ayan o. Ito siya o. Ano doon ang needs and expectations. Ano doon. So, ito siya. You need to understand the organization and its context. Ano ba ibig sabihin ng context? No? Later on, makikita natin yan. We need to understand the needs and expectations of interested parties. Then we need to know the scope of the QMS and its processes on 4.4. Okay? So let's go to what? The understanding. Pag sinabi mong context, in layman's term, ito yung kondisyon, ito yung sitwasyon ng organisasyon sa ngayon. Maganda ba? Pangit ba? Why is it that that it is very important for us to know about that? Kasi ang aim mo nga improvement eh, no? Paano mo malalaman kung ano ang i-improve mo kung hindi mo alam kung ano ka ngayon? So you need to know where your organization lies. You need to know where your process lies. Okay? So you need to understand the external and internal issues. Ano yung mga internal issues sa loob, no? Ito yung mga yung values na meron ng kumpanya niyo. Kulturang meron ngayon na kumpanya niyo. Yung human factors like amount of competency, knowledge of your employees. Resource factor, gaano ba ang resources na meron ako ngayon? Kung sakaling kailangan ko mag-expand at kung hindi naman, just to maintain, enough ba yung resources ko? Operational factor and performance factor, meaning ano yung mga monitoring mechanisms ko, how do I make sure that my performance satisfies the requirement of the customer, satisfies the customer requirement, sorry. And what are the monitoring and the measurement capabilities of my organization? Normally, ginagamit natin dito SWOT analysis, or we evaluate the strengths, the weaknesses, what are the opportunities and the threats to our organization. We can do that now. Sa ngayon, no? For example, nanggaling tayo sa pandemic tapos biglang nagtaasan ng mga bilihin dahil tumaas ang halaga ng langis sa pandaigdigang merkado. So we need to evaluate our internal issues. These are the things that will define our current organization. Whether how resilient, kaya pa ba natin o hindi na, hanggang kailan pa natin kakayanin. We need to know all these things. Apart from that, we need to know the external issues. Unfortunately, we cannot live alone. No man is an island. May bumahin lang sa ibang bansa, apektado ka. No? Especially if you, unfortunately, like in the Philippines, we are an inferior country. We always rely on external factors. So, kahit anong ganda ng pamamalakad ng isang gobyerno, bigla-bigla na lang may nangyari sa ganitong bansa, ay wala tayong magagawa, apektado pa rin tayo. And normally we consider the political aspect of that, economic, social, technological, legal, and working environment, even kahit market environment. Okay? Inaalam natin, like for example, external, o katulad yan, may mga hidwaan sa iba-ibang bansa, like when Taliban overtook Afghanistan, there is also a political issue. We are here, we are in the UAE, may concern kami doon, nandito kami sa Middle East. In the Philippines, no? Pag nagigirian si Taiwan at saka si China, at the same time si Korea, si North at South Korea, may impact yun. No? Economic, as I said, we cannot live alone. We need to survive in line or in harmony with others. So may impact lahat. So we are doing this understanding of organization and its context. An example of a SWOT analysis is like this. No? You need to define what your strengths, what are your weaknesses. So when you say strength for your weakness, which of the company's strengths can be used to maximize your opportunity? With regards to your threat, how can you use the company's strength to minimize the threat? And for weaknesses, for example, what actions can you take to minimize the company's weakness using the opportunity, and how can you minimize company's weaknesses if in case for the threat? So ito yung paano natin ina-analyze ang SWOT. An example ay, kunyari may computer store ka, ano yung, as far as your knowledge is concerned, internally, ano yung strength mo? Ngayon, paano magagamit yung strength mo, okay, to maximize your opportunity and minimize your threat. And ito yung weaknesses mo, paano mo siya i-address. Expectations of our interested parties. So we are not just simply concerned about the customer requirement, we also concerned about the applicable statutory and regulatory requirements. Nakasulat naman pala sa ISO 9001 standard na hindi lang pala customer requirement, merong applicable statutory and regulatory requirement na kailangan satisfy. Na kung saan, okay, each and every parties, you need to evaluate, like what I said, the power and interest. Kung mataas ang interest niya sa kumpanya, pero mahina lang ang power niya, you need to keep informed. Otherwise, kung mataas parehas ang interest niya at authority niya, then you need to manage it closely. So, depende kung paano mo siya lalaruin. No? Okay? So, ang sagot pala doon sa unang tanong ay both. Parehas. Okay, customer requirements and applicable statutory and regulatory requirements. Ngayon, ang question, typically naririnig natin na pag tinabing 14,001 at 45,001, ang minimum requirement is to satisfy the legal requirements. Okay? Naririnig natin lagi yan. Alam natin yan. Ngayon, nalaman natin, hindi lang pala si customer ang kailangan natin satisfy. Pati yung statutory and regulatory requirement. Ang question ko doon nito, bakit hindi natin binabanggit na minimum requirement din ang legal requirement? Okay, sabihin natin may customer requirement na kasama, pero andun yung legal requirement. Bakit siya hindi binabanggit when we are discussing 9001? Kasi ang impression ng taong unang makakarinig pagka sinabi, 14,001 at 45,001, nagko-comply dapat yan sa legal requirement. Pagdating sa So 9001, customer lang, customer focus. Bakit? Bakit hindi na isama yung legal requirement? Kasi ganito siya. Okay, ganito siya. Hindi katulad sa 14,001 at sa 45,001, ang batas na nagpapaloob doon sa produkto at sa serbisyo mo, sa kumpanya mo, ay regardless of your product and service. What I mean by is this, pag nagpatupad ng batas para sa environment at para sa health and safety, hindi tinitingnan kung anong produkto at serbisyo binibigay mo sa iyong customer. Hindi ganoon eh. Lahat yon across the board. Lahat yon kailangan mo i-satisfy regardless of the type of services and the products that you are providing to your customers and other interested parties. Pero sa 9001, yung tinatawag ng applicable lang dun sa customer na yun. For example, nagpo-produce ako ng bearing, no? Manufacturing ng bearing, no? Pero nagpo-produce din ako ng pressure vessel. Fabrication ako eh. So, ang dami kong pinoproduce. So, bawat customer ko, may kanya-kanyang pangangailangan. So, kung itong customer na to, ang produkto lang na ibinibili niya sa akin ay para sa bearing, hindi nag-a-apply sa kanya yung batas, kung meron man, kung dun sa pressure vessel. So, it is dependent on the customer and the products and services that being acquired by the customers. Kaya hindi niya masabi na legal requirement siya. Customer focus ang nangyayari. Kasi incorporated na sa customer focus na hindi lang sapat yung customer requirement or requirement na hiningi sa'yo ng kliyente mo, pati yung batas na nagpapaloob doon sa produkto at serbisyo na kung saan binibigay mo doon sa customer mo. I will just cite you an example. I don't know whether I'm not familiar in the Philippines, but here in the UAE, for example, the company I was working with was previously doing hard chrome plating. Alam mo yung chrome plating, nakikita natin yan pagka yung mga sasakyan, magandang kulay, magandang itsura. Pag chrome plated, no? Makintab, maganda, parang silver siya na. Okay. In UAE, in the federal level, there is a law wherein you are required to limit the amount of chrome, percentage of chrome with respect to its weight in relation to the product the product that you are delivering. So ibig sabihin, pag manufacture ako netong produktong ito, may restriction ako na hanggang ganito lang ang dapat na chrome content ng aking produkto. For example, sa Pilipinas, paggawa ng pintura, kasi I used to work in a chemical manufacturing wherein we are developing or doing research in the chemical paint formulation. Boysen, Dutch Boy, yan yung mga inaaral namin dati. There are, apart from the pigment and the binder or the polymer na ginagamit namin noon, may mga additives na nilalagay. May calcium, may lead, kasi may properties yung pintura na nangangailangan nito mga to. But legal requirements will guide you up to this level only of this content kasi nga they're considered heavy metals and hazardous. So these legal requirements pertains only to the paint manufacturing industry. And during that time, the company I was working with in Pasig caters also other polymers like yung adhesive sa plywood industry. So hindi mo pa pwedeng sabihin na legal requirement lang din ang ang ISO 9001. Kasi nga customer focus siya. And within the customer requirement, you need to satisfy the legal requirements incorporated in your products and services. I hope you got my discussion. I hope you got it. Okay, an example of the context of the organization is just to simply list down your interested parties, what the requirement of the QMS or the quality management system for these interested parties, and the needs and expectations of your interested parties. So ganito gumawa, no? Pagka gumagawa kayo ng context of your organization, nililista mo siya, lahat ng mga interested parties ninyo. Tapos ano yung, sa tingin ninyo, needs and expectations of your interested parties. And hindi lang sa tingin, titingnan ninyo sa ano, no? That's the reason why there is a communication requirement among the interested parties. Hindi lang sapat na nakikipag-deal ka lang sa kanila, kinakailangan mong tanungin din sila. Ano yung na-expect nyo sa amin? So, dating sa produkto namin, sa serbisyo namin, ano? So, alam mo, being an interested party, alam mo kung ano yung hinihingi o in-expect nila sa'yo. So, communication is very important because at the end of the day, your business is as good as their requirement. Kung hindi ka nila hihinga ng produkto at serbisyo, walang kwenta yung kumpanya mo. Okay? So, these are examples of your interested parties and their needs and expectations. Okay? Now, next is, we need to define the scope, yung scope ng QMS mo. So, ang laman pala ng scope ng QMS mo, kung ano man yung mga issues na nakita mo, ano yung sino-sino yung mga interested parties at ano yung mga requirements nila, at ano yung content ng produkto at ng serbisyo mo. Ito yung scope ng QMS mo. Okay? Ito yung scope ng QMS mo. So alam mo kung ano yung kakaharapin mong issue sa ngayon, alam mo kung ano hinihingi sa iyo ng mga interested parties, at ano ang kaya mong i-provide bilang isang kumpanya by knowing your products and services. These are the scope of your QMS. But take note, the scope of your quality management system may differ from the scope of your certification to ISO. Kasi pag nagpapa-certify ka ng nasa ISO 9001-2015, ikaw ang namimili kung up to what extent yung level of your certification. For example, malaking kumpanya ka, no? Malawak ang kumpanya mo. Ngayon, gusto mo, isang departamento lang muna, test run. Isang departamento lang muna ang gusto kong ispa-certify sa 9001-2015 standard. Pwede yun. Walang restriction si ISO doon. That's why the scope of your quality management system may be different from the scope of your certification. As you gain confidence, siguro gusto mo na later on madagdagan yung mga yung certification, yung scope ng certification mo until you cover the entire company. Walang problema doon. Okay, there's no question about that. Okay? And last but not the least, in clause 4, you need to know the processes. Take note, dito nakalagay yung resources mo. Kaya, babalikan natin ngayon yung structure mo, kaya yung plan mo hindi nandito kasi isa sa mga contributory mo ang kakailanganin mo in your plan. And that is your 4.4. You need to know the requirements of your process. As I said, this framework is not only applied and limited to the QMS elements. Yung clauses na yan, hindi lang yon. Pati yung prosesong ginagamit mo, ina-apply itong PDCA na to. So you need to know the inputs and the outputs. You need to know the interaction of the processes. You need to know the methods of your monitoring and measuring and to know your performance. The resources needed, responsibilities and authorities of the process, very important. Kasi wala namang magiging dakila na aakuin lahat ng responsibilidad, no? Kailangan klaro 'yan, no? Sino ang dapat nagkumilos dito at ano yung responsibilidad niya. What are the risks and opportunities involved in the processes, and what are the changes needed if in case there will be changes needed, okay, to achieve your intended results. So this is your clause number 4. Okay. Now, let's go to clause number 5. You will notice in our PDCA, it is at the center of the PDCA process. Okay? Why? Because leadership, as far as the management system is concerned, should be the driving force. Siya dapat ang nangunguna. Siya dapat ang tumutulak sa lahat, sa bawat isa sa loob ng organisasyon, sa buong organisasyon with regards to the conformity to the quality management system. Okay? So therefore, it is imperative that the leadership should come from the top. That is the reason why in clause number 5, okay, leadership and commitment, next is policy and roles and responsibilities and authorities. In the leadership, as far as the top management is concerned, it has an overall accountability. Maaaring i-delegate mo yung responsibilidad, pero kahit ano man ang mangyari diyan, command responsibility mo yan, you are accountable for that. Hindi mo po pwedeng ipasa yan. That's the reason why the ISO has removed the terminology management representative. Before, there is what you call management representative, wherein the top management gives this responsibility to a certain senior manager or manager, wherein totally involved and responsible in managing the system. Wherein, sabi nga natin, risk-based tayo, no? Kung risk-based approach ka, dapat hindi mo ibibigay lang sa isang tao yung pamamahala ng isang management. That is too risky. That is too risky. Biglang mag-resign yan, may mangyari dyan, atakihin sa puso yan, ano mangyayari ngayon sa management mo? Bit-bit niya yan sa hukay. That's the reason why they have removed the management representative, going into that idea of risk-based approach, at ipasa yung responsibilidad na yan sa top management, na kung saan may kakayahan siya na magbigay ng utos to delegate authority and responsibility. But the overall accountability should be coming from the top management. And these are the requirements as far as the standard is concerned. So I don't want to read each and everything. That's the reason why I wanted everyone to have a copy of their ISO 9001 standard. Okay, so you need to satisfy all these things as far as the top management is concerned. Okay, going to the next. Apart from the top management, accountability in the organization, the top management should have also a customer focus. Dito na nga sinasabi ko, no? Hindi katulad ng 14 and 45,000 months sinasabi the minimum requirement is the legal requirement. Sa 9001, ang minimum requirement is customer satisfaction, customer focus. But remember, when you satisfy the customer, you are also requiring to satisfy the applicable legal requirement for the products and services you are giving or rendering to the client. So, nakapaloob yun doon. Hindi lang sinasabi, pero nakapaloob yun doon. And the risk and opportunities affecting the conformity of the products and services and enhance customer satisfaction. Kung babalikanin mo, dalawa ang output mo rito. Customer satisfaction and products and services. So hindi lang pala sapat na magaling kang gumawa ng produkto at mag-provide ng serbisyo. Kailangan satisfied din ang customer mo. Hindi lang sapat na meron kang produkto at serbisyo. Okay? So, maintain enhancing customer satisfaction. As I said, your business is as good as the requirement of your customer. Okay? Take note of my wordings here. Conformity. Sa ISO standard po kasi, tinanggal na yung word na conformance at compliance. Normally, nasa isip natin, pag compliance, legal requirement. Now, when you talk about ISO standard, even if you comply with the legal requirement, knowing that the legal requirement is part of the ISO standard requirement, then it means that when you comply with the legal requirement, you're also complying with the ISO standard. So therefore, when you are satisfying the legal requirement, you are in conformity. You are in conformity with the requirement of the standard. So, pag binasa mo ang lahat ng ISO standard, wala ka nang mababasang conformance at compliance. Ang nakikita mo, either conformity or non-conformity. Okay. Question. Ano po yun, sir? Nakasanayan ko na siya. Na sinasabi ko, compliance kapag legal requirement at conformance kapag naman sa requirements ng standard. Walang problema doon. Kasi hindi ka naman dinidiktahan ng ISO na sundin ang terminology yung ginagamit nila ngayon. Ganun ka-flexible si ISO. As long as everyone in the organization understands what you mean, and you deliver the intended results or outcome of your management system, walang problema doon. Kaya hanggang ngayon, may mga tao, meron pa rin silang management representative. Tinanggal na naman yun. And even the terminologies, you can still make use of that. Bakit ka mo? Si 14,001, ang sabi compliance obligation para sa legal requirement niya. Samantalang naman ito si 45,001, sinasabi niya legal requirements and other requirements. Parehas lang naman sila. Tapos ito ngayon, makikita mo si 9,001, sasabi niya, statutory and regulatory requirements. Paano naman mo i-integrate yan kung sa terminology pala magkakaiba na sila, no? Pero ganun kaganda si ISO kasi hindi niya nire-restrict yung paggamit ng terminology as long as it is well defined and understood among the within the organization and among the interested parties concerned. Okay? I hope that everyone understood my concern. No? Next is policy. Sa policy, doon dapat nakasulat yung purpose and context of the company. Dapat, yun ang basihan mo ng pagde-develop ng iyong objective kasi ang objective supposed to be when you define your objective or generate an objective, it should facilitate in achieving your requirement. If your policy is defining your mission, vision, or purpose of the organization, your objective should address that so that when achieving this objective, at the same time, achieving your policy requirement. So, commitment to satisfy applicable requirements. So, the applicable requirements covers both the customer requirement and the legal requirements, which is the statutory and regulatory requirements. And commitment to continual improvement. Okay? Continual improvement. And this policy should be properly communicated. Hindi lang siya na-communicate, dapat naintindihan din siya, na-understood. That's why, pag gumagawa tayo ng policy, dapat hindi highfalutin, hindi yung parang Miriam Defensor Santiago yung mga words na ginagamit mo. No? It should be easy to understand and as much as possible, relatable to people around you so that they can easily understood and apply. Of course, there will be restrictions to the terminology because at the end of the day, it depends on the type of business that you are doing. So, hindi mo pa pwedeng isiksik yung sobrang simple kung technical naman talaga yung nature ng operation mo. But what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, the policy should be understood and applied. Hindi lang siya dekorasyon sa wall. Hindi siya portrait, no? Hindi siya portrait. No? Kailangan maintindihan siya. And available to all relevant interested parties. So, pag hiningan ni supplier, wag ka magdamot. No? Actually, that's one way for you to influence your supplier. Kung hindi siya hindi maganda yung management system niya o may problema siya, pwede mong ma-influensyahan. Kasi at the end of the day, your external providers are your extension. May mangyaring maganda o masama sa produkto at serbisyo niya, apektado ka, ginagamit mo siya eh. So, it's very important that you are providing that level of influence. And next is, you need to define the roles, responsibilities, and authorities. It is very important because the problem here, kapag hindi define yung roles and responsibilities, doon pagmumulan yung blaming culture eh. Ikaw may responsibilidad. Hindi, ikaw may responsibilidad yan eh. And remember, kapag hindi klaro yun at walang otoridad yung tao, kahit anong ganda ng idea niya, hindi yan susundin. So therefore, in line with the roles, there should be accountability. There should be authority so that he knows what is his limitation and what is his restriction. Limitation and capability, So, you need to have process deliver intended results, QMS performance opportunities for improvement. As I said, promote the customer focus. And if in case there are changes, it should be properly planned and implemented. Now, let's go to the next clause, which is the planning. Okay. Sabi ko sa inyo, bakit hindi inilagay yung planning, sabi ko, yung piece of planning. Kasi kung titingnan mo pa lang dito agad, wala nang resources eh. Ano lang ba to? Addressing the risk and opportunities. Okay, objectives and how to achieve that. And planning of changes. This is very unique. Take note, this is very unique in ISO standard. Kasi ISO 9001 lang meron yan. Na from the start, pinaplano mo na yung pagbabago mo. Okay? Standard lang, ang ISO 9001 lang ang meron clause na ganito. Pero, take note of this hindi ibig sabihin walang ganito si 14 at 45,001 Yun ang challenge ko sa inyo sa mga susunod na linggo na i-discuss natin yan. Now, of course, ng mga equally competent and expert na mga kasama ko sa FILSA with regards to 14 and 45,001. Saan mo makikita sa 14 at 45,001 ito? Andun siya. Chinek ko na Andun siya. Pero hindi siya naka-define. Hindi siya nakahiwalay. Okay? Yun yung kaibahan niya sa 9001 kasi in-emphasize niya yung planning of changes as part of your planning clause. So, ano siya? No? Ano yung risk and opportunity? You need to consider the issues and the requirements of interested parties. And you need to have your processes in place. Now, why is it very important when you are evaluating your risk and opportunities? This is to evaluate the effectiveness of this action. Kasi sabi ko nga gano'n, di ba? In our process approach, each and every stages of your process, you need to evaluate the effectiveness of your controls. And what are the risks and opportunities involved in each and every stages of the process? Kasi kung mag-deviate yung unang step pa lang doon sa process na yon, baka hindi mo ma-achieve yung resulta mo sa dulo. So you need to have this kind of system. And to give assurance of QMS that you can achieve intended result, yun naman talagang kailangan Na kahit meron ka mang risk and opportunities na i-encounter ngayon, at the end of the day, dapat makapag-provide ka ng produkto at serbisyo mo. Kasi yun ang hiningi ng customer mo. And you need to enhance desirable effects and to prevent or reduce undesired effects and to achieve improvement. Kasi at the end of the day, kung ano yung risk and opportunities, yan diyan ka uhugot ng ideas mo for your improvement. Okay? Next sub-clause is quality objective. As I said, your objective should be smart, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Why? Remember, you are developing an objective to facilitate, to help in achieving your objective, your desire for your organization. Kaya ka may mga strategic planning. Meron kang policy, dinefine mo yung policy mo. Anong gusto mong mangyari sa kumpanya mo? It should be consistent with the policy. You should also consider the requirements, applicable requirements, both customer and legal requirements, and conformity to the products and services and customer satisfaction. And this objective should be monitored properly, communicated, and updated. So, hindi lang siya dekorasyon na nakadevelop ako ng objective. Dapat yan, regular mo siya tinitingnan. Gano'n na ako kalayo or kalapit doon sa objective ko. Meron kang performance indicator bawat objective mo. Kumbaga, nag-i-indicate, tinawag siya performance indicator. Ini-indicate niya o binibigyan ka niya ng idea kung malayo ka pa o malapit doon sa inaasam mo. And it should be properly communicated. Bakit? Kasi kung kayo-kayo lang doon sa departamento nakakaalam niyan, ay good luck. Hindi mo ma-achieve yun. Kasi kailangan ng involvement, ng engagement ng mga tao para maging parte sila ng achievement na yun. Para malaman nila kung ano yung significance nila in achieving that particular objective. And it should be updated appropriately. Normally every 2 months or every 3 months or gano'n, no? Para malaman mo kung ano na yung status ng iyong objective. So, when you plan your objective, you need to define these things. What will be done? What are the resources required? So, pag gumagawa ka ng objective mo, ito dapat ang mga dapat mong sagutin na tanong. Anong dapat mong gawin? What will be done? Anong mga kailangan kong resources? Sino ang responsable dito sa objective na to? O sino-sino? Kailan ito target mong matapos? Kaya nga sinasabi ko, it should be smart, time-bounded. And how the results will be evaluated, there should be a monitoring system. It should be measurable, kaya nga smart. Kasi hindi mo malalaman kung ma-achieve mo siya o hindi, kung hindi mo siya ma-measure at hindi mo na ma-monitor. And as I said, this is so unique in 9001 because they explicitly mention it. You need to plan the changes. Planning for changes and its consequence so that there will be integrity in the QMS. You need to define the resource availability and the proper allocation or reallocation of resources, no, responsibilities and authorities. Very important, no? Kasi hindi lang sapat na alam mong i-manage yung change. Kung sa umpisa pa lang alam mo na kung anong gusto mong pagbabago, kasi parehas pwedeng planned changes or unintended changes, posible kasi yun. Pero for planning of changes, it's very important you know all these requirements. Okay, now let's go to, tapos na tayo sa planning. No? Punta na tayo sa pinakamahabang part ng quality management system. And that is the do part, which is support and operation, 7 and 8. In the support, you need, kaya nga, hindi mo magagawa kahit na maganda yung pagpaplano mo kung hindi ka bibigyan ng suporta ng top management. And these are the requirements for you to get or you need to obtain from the management for you to effectively implement the quality management system standard. The resources, the amount of resources, time, money, equipment, lahat ng pangailangan, working environment, competency level of your people, isa siya, no? Number 2, awareness, you need to inform the people around you and the relevant interested parties kasi whatever they will do will impact their organization. You need to have proper communication, as I said, at the end of the day, it's very important you should communicate your requirements to all your interested parties. And there should be proper documented information. Dito, isa na naman itong unique. No? Kasi sa new ISO standards, sa lahat ng management system standards, dinefine kung ano yung ibig sabihin ng documented information. So as far as resources concerned, people, ito yung tinatawag na people, machine, PME, no? People, environment, machine, equipment, ito lahat yun. No? And even the monitoring and measurement resources. That is very important in your traceability. Ibig sabihin, pag sinabi mong traceable yan, kayang malaman or kaya siyang ulitin, kaya malaman kung saan nagmula. No? From the word trace. Okay? So infrastructure, the environment. So standard na to, tinanggal yung workplace environment, pinalitan siya ng environment for the operation of processes, which includes not only the physical, hindi lang yung building, hindi lang yung social, yung pagkikipagsalamuha mo sa tao, even psychological, yung paano ka tratuhin, yung mga issue of bullying, stress management, post-traumatic stress disorder, lahat yan kino-consider when you consider the process. It's not only the human and physical factors. Organizational knowledge. Remember, organizational knowledge is not the same as the level of knowledge of the people. Although part of that. Sa loob kasi ng organisasyon, nandun doon ang mga tao. Alam natin yan. Kung ano yung knowledge ng tao, level of competency, alam natin yan. Pero as part of the organization as the whole, meron din siyang sarili niyang knowledge. Ito yung mga intellectual property, mga lessons learned sa mga previous projects, both success and failure, yung mga standards na ini-implement sa kanya, for example, if the organization belongs to a international organization na kung saan nagpo-conduct sila ng conferences. If, for example, the organization has an access in the academic community, so meron ng information, research, new research on the products and services. Etong lahat ng ito, and of course from the customers and external providers. So all these things are part of the organizational knowledge. As I said, this is different from the individual or personal knowledge of the people. Okay? This is totally different. Okay. Now, just for a while, kaya po. Siya po, yung aking aso nagwawala. Kaya kailangan ko lang mag-head.
Positive risk yun.
Sir?
Positive risk yung aso.
Okay, going back to the discussion, next of the subclause under support is competence. As we all know, knowledge, ability, or aptitude, training, and experience. Ito na yung individual na to sa mga empleyado natin. Ito yung tinatawag na kailangan may level of support ng organization to provide this level of competence. Okay? Apart from that, there should be awareness. No? Awareness on the part of the policy. Bibigay mo, dapat hindi lang decoration sa ano yan, no? Wall. It should be informed to everyone. Even the objective, they need to be aware about what are the objectives. As I said, you cannot achieve that objective unless everyone is involved. And on the part of the people, para malaman nila yung importansya nila, dapat alam din nila kung ano yung contribution nila. Hindi lang dapat na nakatutok lang sa management o sa ilang tao na pag na-achieve natin tong objective na to, na-achieve natin tong magandang produktong ito, dahil ito dahil ito sa magandang management. Hindi ganun. Dapat may feedback doon sa mga nagtatrabaho din. Para malaman nila na hindi lang pala baliwala yung involvement ko. May impact pala yung ginagawa ko in the overall aspect of the organization. And apart from that, there should be an awareness on the implication of the non-conformity kasi ganun din, two-sided yan eh. Maganda o pangit ang kilabasan ng ginagawa ng tao mo, magre-reflect yan dun sa performance ng organization. So both of this should be informed. So part of awareness yun. And of course, communication. Communication needs to be both internal and external. Okay, of course, the mechanism or methodology of your communication depends upon the audience. Okay, so kung ang tipo ng mga tao mo ay nasa construction industry ka na hindi naman lahat nakapag-aral at iba nga hindi nga marunong magsulat at magbasa, so dapat iba yung way mo to communicate, no? More on visual. May mga tao naman na mga nasa ano ka, no, na kinakausap mo ay mga nagtapos ng kung ano-anong degree. So ibang level, no? Maboboard naman sila kung puro picture lang. Baka sabihin nila, ano to, comics? No? Hindi naman ka nakikipag-usap sa coloring book. Hindi naman gano'n, no? So you need to evaluate the methodology of your communication depending on your audience. But precisely, there should be the common information. You should know what to be communicated, when it will be communicated. As I said, you need to know your audience, how it should be communicated, and who will communicate. Napaka-importante nun. Kasi hindi dapat sino-sino lang ang nakikipag-communicate. Kasi yung communication skills itself is part of a requirement for competency. Hindi lang basta-basta si ganito, papasok ko or ibabala ko diyan kasi siya yung available. Hindi gano'n. It will relate to the competency requirement. Then last but not the least is the documented information. So new standard, tinanggal na yung word na document at saka record. Tinanggal na yon. Pinag-isa na lang ginawang documented information. But for you to decipher, to know whether the requirement of the standard pertains to document or pertains to record, may keywords doon. Pag may kadugtong yung document information ng maintain, ibig sabihin, document yun. And document can be may hard copy ka or kahit wala. Hindi, itong kaganda sa ISO standard ngayon, hindi kayo noobligan na mag-develop ng procedure. Okay? As long as you can demonstrate that there is a system in place, there is a process in place, and that process serves your purpose, serves your requirement, then that is good enough. Hindi kailangan na may nakasulat lahat. Hindi. Those were the days na pag sinabi mong ISO standard, bulto-bulto ng papel ang kailangan mong i-develop para lang ma-certify. Hindi gano'n. At pag naman you are pertaining to record, ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng record? Isa siyang form of evidence na ginagawa mo yung bagay na to. That's the record. No? Kaya nga, pag sinabing record, dapat most of the time, handwritten yan. Hindi yan tinatype o ini-encode. Kasi para masabi mo na ginawa talaga yan, there should be physical involvement, personal involvement. Okay? So, normally, sulat kamay yan, checklist mo, inspection mo, typical yan, dapat sulat kamay para hindi masabi na, ay kahapon niya lang ginawa yan kasi tinype lang niya yan. No? Ngayon, paano mo malalaman kung record ang pinag-uusapan ng documented information mo? Kasi parehas na siya ng document at records. If your document has the keyword maintain, ang documented information naman, pag nilagyan mo ng retain, iniwan mo, retain, it means that is a record. Okay? So, what are the requirements of the documented information? You need to create and update. And these are the requirements. I will not be writing down, mentioning everything. And you need to control this documented information. It's very important in quality management system that there should be proper control of documented information. Kasi nga dynamic. Ngayon, itong specification ng kliyente, ito yung hinihingi niya. Bukas makalawa, mababago yan. So, dapat alam mo kung ano yung kailangan i-update mo siya at kailangan may control ka doon. Baka bukas makalawa, luma na pala yung specification na sinusundan ninyo and it will affect the quality of your products and services. Okay? In addition to the control is the confidentiality issue. So, hindi lang sapat na ibibigay ka ng information. May mga information na hindi mo dapat i-disclose to limit, and it should be disclosed only to limited people. Like for example, ang tinatawag na intellectual property. Yung design nitong equipment na to ay patented. So, hindi mo po pwede ito i-share sa kanino, no? I used to work in a company wherein I am catering to more than 50 companies, multinational oil and gas companies. At karamihan sa kanila ay competitors among each other na iisang lugar. So noon, pag ako nag-i-inspect, minsan kailangan ko mag-take ng photographs, no? Kailangan picture. Tinatanong ko muna sila, okay lang ba? At saka kung meron man kayong restrictions, saan ba dito yung pwede ko lang kuhaan? Because although I'm doing my part during the inspection, but I need to consider the confidentiality of the information that they are keeping. Kasi maaaring yun ang bread and butter nila. Tapos pag lumabas yun, wala nang mangyayari sa produkto at serbisyo nila. And of course, as I said, there should be an distribution, access, retrieval, use and storage, preservation and control of these changes, retention and disposition. Dito niyo nga minsan nakikita na kahit 3 taon na o 4 na taon na yung procedure at saka yung record, kailangan niyo pa rin itago. Kasi nga part of control of documented information, because the data and information is relevant in your decision making. As I said, evidence-based dapat ang decision making. Hindi lang hinulaan mo. So let's go to the next. Another long loss operation. Actually, a quality management system revolves mainly here. Ang napapansin niyo, may tinatawag sila quality control and quality assurance. Magkaiba siya, no? Pero parte siya ng quality management. Quality control means you are trying to fulfill the requirement of your client based on your products and services. So, itong hinihingi na specification, itong gagawin ko. Yun ang quality control. Kaya nga normally, ang quality control nasa operations, nasa manufacturing side. Kasi, kunyari, kailangan ng diameter ng pipe mo ay ganito, kailangan ang weight ng produkto ko ay ganito. So, yung specifications na yon ng produkto o ng serbisyo na binibigay mo is what you call quality control. You are trying to control that. However, quality assurance provides level of confidence to your interested party, to your client, that you are complying or you are fulfilling the requirement of the customer. So, okay, alam ko, ginagawa mo yan, no? Ginagawa mo yung produkto at yung serbisyo ayon sa specification. Paano ko ngayon yan masisigurado? Hindi naman ako nakatutok 24 oras. Yung assurance ngayon ang mabibigay. That's why quality control, normally these are all for testing. Mga testing na yan, mga calibration equipment, testing. Yan yung quality control. Namantala si quality assurance, diyan kikikin yung mga procedures mo, yung mga work instructions mo, nasusunod ba? So, doon pumapasok yung mga audit, diyan pumapasok kasi they will try to cross-check if you are complying with the processes that has been laid down to produce the products and services. Okay? So, going back to the clause 8, these are all the requirements. Operational planning and control. What are the requirements of your products and services? You need to have a design and development of products and services kasi hindi lang basta trabaho ng trabaho, hindi basta gawa ng gawa, kailangan may pagdidisenyo at development. Now, there are some, there are some processes and even products and services that are being provided externally by service providers. Either yung supplier ninyo, bakit pa ako gagawa na itong parte ng aking, kunyari, nagagawa ko ng pressure vessel, no? Cylindrical siya, yung parang capsule type. Bakit ko kailangan gawin na naman yung taas at saka yung baba, no? Kung meron naman contractor na gagawa nun para sa akin kasi expert sila doon, may equipment sila doon. Kaysa bumili ako ng roller bending machine para lang i-curve siya into concave, eh, meron naman eh. So these are externally provided services that will affect your products and services as well. So kailangan mo i-controlin yun. And production and service provision, paano mo ipoprovide yung produkto at yung serbisyo. And then second to the list is yung products and services. Paano mo siya i-release? Sapat lang ba na pag natapos siya, i-release ko na agad siya? And last but not least, obviously, laging merong defects. So kung may defects, anong gagawin mo sa defecto? Paano mo siya kukontrolin? Baka kasi mahalo siya or it will mix up with other products and services. So let's go to the 8.1. So the objective of this clause is to plan and control the processes to meet the requirements. Okay? So ano yung mga kailangan mo? You need to have requirements. Anong mga specification ng product and services mo? Ano yung mga criteria na dapat mo i-consider? What are the criteria that I need to consider when I will accept the products and services? What are the needed resources? How will I control the processes? And how, if in case there will be planned or unintended changes, how will I manage it? Dito pumapasok yung management of change. Kasi nung una, binabasa ko itong standard na to. I am familiar with 14 and 45,001 standard. In the 14.1 standard, there's no clause for management of change, although in the annex, they defined it. In 45,001, klarong-klaro, no? Pinakita niya yung management of change as part of operational control. Pero sabi ko, bakit itong 9,001, wala nakasulat na management of change? Pinlano mo na eh. May planning ka na eh. Bakit hindi mo manage? Then when I was reading this, doon pala siya, isa siya sa mga requirements of the operational planning control. Hindi nga lang siya inexplicitly defined, pero andun siya. Okay? So gusto kong makita niyo yan, basahin niyo para maintindihan niyo. Ano ba yung management of change as far as 9001 is concerned? Then next to that is requirements for products and services. The objective of this is to define the requirements to provide the products. Kailangan mo mag-produce eh. So ano yung mga requirements? Customer communication. Ano yung mga based on the contract, but the specifications, for example, legal requirements in relation to the products and services. For example, kailangan mo rin yung mga review ng customer mo, may feedback kumbaga. Within the organization and among your customers, kailangan mo yun. And changes to these requirements. Kasi nga, if you want to have improvement, you need to embrace change. Okay? The next is design and development. Isa ito sa napakahabang aspeto ng operation. And lahat ito dapat ay recorded. Nakalimutan kong banggitin from the start, may napapansin kayo, may asterisk dito. Ilagyan ko ng asterisk yung mga clauses and sub-clauses na nire-require ng ebidensya or record. So, ibig sabihin, this design and development, which ensures continuous provision of products and services, all of these stages should be recorded. So, the planning stage pa lang ng development, design and development mo, dapat yan dokumentado. That alam mo kung ano yung nature ng activity mo, process stages, lahat ng yun. Next, alam mo na kung ano yung mga in-expect mo, no? The nature of your activities and your controls. Ano ngayon yung kailangan mo to initiate the process? So, ano dun yung functional and performance requirement? Ano ba yung function na itong produkto ko? At paano ba siya mag-perform? What are the legal requirements incorporated to my products and services? And in case there will be consequences, paano ko siya i-control? Okay? Then, sorry, what are the potential consequences? Yung control pala is the next stage. Sorry to say that. So, alam mo na kung ano yung mga requirements, paano mo ngayon kukontrolin yung proseso mo? This is to ensure that results are achieved. Ano ba yung results na in-expect mo? Enhance customer satisfaction and good and exemplary products and services. So, you need to review what have been conducted. There should be verification and validation activities. Magkaiba yung verification at saka validation, ha? Ang verification, ginagamit ito kapag meron kang set of requirements or process na gusto i-check. Sumunod ba siya sa ganitong proseso? Okay, verified. Kaya nga, sinasabi natin, verified yung kapag tinignan mo yung buong proseso at nangyari yung in-expect mo. Validation means ginawa yung testing in accordance to the desired intended purpose. For example, itong produktong ito, ang purpose niya ay mag-pump ng tubig. Kinek mo siya. Ginagawa niya ba yung dinisenyo sa kanya? That is part of validation because you are aiming to verify, to validate, okay, to check if the intended purpose has been met. The next is output. So, what are the output of your design and development? Ano ba yung na-expect ko na output out of this? Because first, we need to make sure that you meet the input requirements. Kaya ka nga nagplan nung una eh. At inalam mo kung ano yung mga kailangan mo eh. Kasi at the end, kailangan mo siyang magawa. You should have adequate processes for products and services. You should have a monitoring and measurement mechanism and acceptance criteria. Because at the end of the day, you can only say that you have done your intended results, your output, if you satisfied all these requirements. And if in case there will be changes, you need to identify, review, and control these changes so that you will prevent the adverse impact of its conformity. Okay? Next is control of externally provided processes. Okay? Ano yung purpose nito is to ensure better control. Kasi sabi ko ng ganon, the objective of the standard is to do it process approach. Bawat step of the process, you need meron kang control, no? So ano yung mga type of controls na dapat, type and extent of controls na dapat mong ilagay in your products and in developing your products and services. Okay? And what are the and primarily what are the information that you need to provide to your external providers? Okay? That is one way for you to have a proper control. Then eto na yung actual production na, no? Ginagagawin mo na yung produkto mo or magpo-provide ka na ng serbisyo, production and service provision. So you need to implement whatever processes you have developed and whatever controls that you have placed as far as your risk-based thinking is concerned during your process approach. So you need to control the production and service provision. You need to have proper identification and traceability para kaya yung iba, 'di ba, may mga indexing sila o may mga reference number sila, may control number na tinatawag para properly identified itong batch na ito, para madali siya ma-trace din. There are some customers na ang nature kasi ng business, for example, ay servicing. Kunyari, ang serbisyo mo ay mag-repair ng washing machine, no? So ibig sabihin, hindi iyo yung washing machine, ibibigay lang ng customer. So may property belonging to customers na tinatawag. Hindi dapat yung alagaan mo. Hindi kasi nasa poder mo siya, no? Hindi yan basta-basta dapat masira sa pangangalaga mo. So apart from that, there should be proper preservation. Yung produkto na nagawa mo dapat ma-preserve mo siya. Bakit kamo? Kasi normally ganun ginagawa natin, di ba? May batch checking. kukuha ng isang sample sa isang batch na ginawa, tapos checkin, ipe-preserve mo yun. Bakit kamo? Kasi pagka nagkaroon ng problema with respect to that particular batch, pwede mo siyang balikan. Ano bang ginawa ko? Ano ba itsura nito? Ano ba ang performance nito? Okay? And post-delivery activities, hindi lang sapat yung dineliver mo. Ano yung mga kailangan niya pang isatisfy? Legal requirements, may client requirement, lahat ng ito. And if in case that there will be some changes, control of these changes, how are you going to control this? Dami pa, no? Release of products and services. Okay? The objective is to implement this plant arrangement. Okay? And ensure it's satisfied. Kasi at the end of the day, ang objective mo is ibigay mo yung produkto at yung serbisyo. So, the question is, sabi ko nga, evidence-based, meron ka dapat in ebidensya na nagko-conform. Na-validate mo ba siya? Dumaan ba siya sa proper testing and inspection? So, at ito bang dumaan na to ay nag-comply ba or nag-satisfy ba ito or nag-conform ba ito sa acceptance criteria mo? Kaya di ba, nagka-calibrate tayo ng mga equipment na ginagamit natin kasi to make sure na may uniformity sa ating data and result. And next is traceability. Hindi lang yung matitrace mo yung produkto mo, sino din yung mga involved na tao during this process kasi bukas makalawa, pag nagkaroon ng issue, or for example, you wanted to know more about the process, pwede mo silang balikan. No? Hindi not necessarily laging negative. Pwede mo silang balikan na ano bang ginawa mo? Knowledge ba? Kumbaga, para makita mo yung wisdom behind why they have done it before. And last but not the least is the control of non-conforming. We don't want to mess up our products and services just because we failed to control the non-conforming products and services. Ang ganda ng performance mo, all of a sudden, may isa lang na nakalagpas, lahat yun mababaliwala. Sabi nga, di ba, when you present a whiteboard and you place one dot, when you ask someone, they will only describe the dot, but not the entirety of the whiteboard. So ganyan din yung impression. So how are you going to address that? Either i-correct mo siya doon right there and then, no? Pag nalaman mo siya, kung nakita mo siya sa loob pa lang ng manufacturing. Or for example, hindi mo agad magagawa. You need to segregate, contain, return, or suspend the provision of this product and services. Tulad ng, di ba, may mga kaso before like sa Toyota, sa Honda, na may mga na later on, after 5-10 years, yung mga manufacture nila mga sasakyan with this particular model, kinukuha nila no para i-check uli kasi may during the review and evaluation may mga complaints and may mga issues na lumabas, so they wanted to review whether may epekto rin ba doon sa mga iba or selective lang no for that particular batch. Next is you need to inform the customer. Of course, dapat may alam siya sa nangyayari no na ito hindi to pwede, ito pwede kasi siyempre meron kang deliverable time baka ma-delay ka. So dapat mong inform siya. And last but not the least, if in case na i-accept naman yun, wala nang choice. Although sa tingin ng customer or kahit sa tingin mo hindi pumasa sa standard, but wala nang choice kasi kailangan you need to have an authorization for acceptance under concession. So meron kayong agreement. Okay? Clause 9, malapit na po tayo matapos. Clause 9, performance evaluation. Of course, hindi sapat na ginawa mo yung trabaho mo. There should be a way for you to evaluate whether you performed well. So there should be monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation. Dito papasok yung metrology. No? Metrological confirmation. Pag sinabing metrology, narinig niyo na po ba yung word na metrology? Yung metrology means it's the science of measurement. Ito yung ginagawa kapag nagka-calibrate tayo ng mga equipment natin. So metrology. So kung yung thermometer mo, kinakalibrate, metrology yun. No? Yung weighing scale mo, kung kinakalibrate yan, no? Ang tawag yan metrology. So you need to have calibrated mechanisms so that you will have your data and results consistent with your data, with your with the intended outcome. So ano itong mga to? Apart from monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation, you need to have an internal audit, which is a proactive mechanism of monitoring. Okay, so kailangan may auditing process. Hindi lang sapat na alam mo nang nagde-develop ka ng isang magandang produkto, yung bang prosesong ginagamit mo ay nasusunod ng ayon sa nasusulat. Okay? And last but not the least is the management review. Kasi at the end of the day, lahat ng ito should be informed to the management and they need to review the performance of the organization. Kasi kung merong kakulangan dun sa kung bakit hindi nila magawa yung produkto o at yung serbisyo ng tama ayon sa pangangailangan ng customer, then the management should intervene and provide these necessary requirements. Okay, so ito siya, no? Sinamarize ko na lang siya. So what needs to monitor and measure? You need to know there should be customer satisfaction in the form of survey, feedback. Ito yung way for you to evaluate kung maganda ba ang maging resulta. No? There will be warranty claims, dealer reports, okay, market share analysis, and then analysis and evaluation. Apart from that, then the next is internal audit. You need to conform to the ang objective ng internal audit is nako-conform ka ba sa sarili mong requirement at sa international standard since hinihingi mo yung certification ng ISO as far as 9001-2015 standard is concerned. So dapat well-trained yung mga auditors. Okay? Well-defined yung scope ng audit mo, no? Dapat alam, no? At walang surprise audit, lahat yan informed audit. Yung mga requirements ng auditors and auditees dapat provided. No? And remember, the most effective management system are those organizations that can produce meaningful internal audit. Ano yung meaningful? Hindi yung paramihan ng audit finding. Isa, dalawa, pwede na yan. Pero kaya siya tinawag na meaningful, it will add value to the organization. It will enhance the products and services of the company. No? Kumbaga, kaya niyang yanigin yung buong management system para magkaroon ng significant impact to the management. Pero yung mga audit finding na ay wala kasing signature si ganito, ay mali yung date ni ganito. Walang kwentang audit finding 'yon, no? Mag-aaksaya lang kayo ng oras, naglolokohan lang kayo. Kasi kailangan mo lang doon clerk, hindi mo kailangan ng auditor, no? So, ang magagandang audit finding yung kayang magbago, yung mga bagay na hindi agad napansin yung una pero pwede pala, no? That's why internal auditors should be very keen. They are very meticulous when they are trying to evaluate the processes and the intended outcome of your products and services. Okay, the last is management review. Maraming mga input ng management review like previous management review finding, yung customer feedback, yung competency ng lahat ito nakasulat sa standard. Hindi ko na siya sinulat kasi nga madami ng slide. Pero sabi ko gano'n, you can have the copy of the standard and stipulated doon, nakasulat doon kung ano ang mga requirements na dapat i-discuss sa management. Even the non-conformity and corrective action. O mayroong mga complaints, yung mga performance ng mga external providers mo, lahat yun nakakasalan doon. No? And obviously, there will be an output for that. Yung output doon, it will be in the form of a report and there will be actions to be taken by the management. May plan of action na ma-generate at the end of the management review. Kasi nga, dahil napag-usapan nyo na kung ano yung current situation now, kasi kasama sa pag-uusapan sa management review yung changes in your issues, yung external internal issues, nagbabago kasi siya, no? Dapat pag-usapan. So ngayon na alam mo na siya, ano ngayon ang gagawin ng management? Paano mo ngayon i-address itong mga to? Binibigay na ngayon sa iyo yung bola, no? The ball is in your court. What are you going to do to address these issues? The lapses that has been identified during your management review. And all of this will be in the form of a report with a plan of action, with defined roles and defined responsibilities, who will be responsible, and the target date or the timeline for that to be happen. To happen. So definitely ano siya, proactive siya, no? Kasi nga kailangan mo siyang i-monitor, hindi lang sapat na nalaman mo. You need to know what are the requirements that need to be satisfied. Last but not the least, sorry to say, there is an improvement which is the objective. Kasi sa mga naunang standard, may improvement naman. Kaya lang dito sa ngayong ISO Annex SL High Level Structure Standard, explicit na siya. Pinakitang hiwalay na siya, no? Kasi nga to emphasize the very importance of improvement in the management system. Okay? Ano yon? Non-conformity. Kasi hindi naman tayo perfecto. Laging may lalabas na hindi magsasatisfy sa requirement. So how are you going to evaluate your non-conformity? No? So dito papasok yung root cause analysis natin, investigation natin. Ano bang naging problema? Sa proseso ba? Sa raw material ba? Sa execution ba? Sa planning ba? Sa umpisa pa lang may mali na. So lahat ito titingnan mo. And you need to provide corrective action. Take note, corrective action is different from preventive action. Corrective action is an action to eliminate the cause of a non-conformity and prevent recurrence. Parang preventive action siya, no? Pero hindi. Kasi nga, tinanggal na natin yung preventive action dahil risk-based approach na nga tayo. Itong corrective action, futuristic din ito to prevent recurrence. And last but not the least, we need to have continual improvement. At the end of the day, okay, as a leader, which is at the center of this management system, okay, the top management and all the leaders at different functional levels of the organization should be innovative, should think outside of the box to improve. Kasi napaka ano na ngayon, no? Stiff na ng competition. Okay? Like for example, sa damakmak na mga STO sa Pilipinas, no? What makes you different from other STO, for example? Or for example, ang dami manufacturing companies sa Pilipinas, what makes you different from them? What can you offer different from what others are offering at this point? You need to think outside of the box. Otherwise, kakainin ka ng buhay. When I was, isa sa mga natutunan ko when I was taking my MBA, there is a what you call blue ocean strategy. I wanted to share it with you. Anyway, this is in relation to quality management as well. May tinatawag na blue ocean strategy. Ano ba ibig sabihin ng blue ocean strategy? Blue ocean, di ba ang ating karagatan, kapag tahimik at maliwalas, technically kulay blue yan. Di ba? Pero kapag may mga pating na nakapalibot diyan at merong kakain sa tao doon o kung sino man, madugo yan, red ocean yan. So if you will try to symbolize your organization, okay, to an ocean, nandun sa ocean, pag sinabing red ocean, ang daming nagpa-participate, ang daming gustong kumuha ng parte nila. So kaya naging mapula na yung dagat o yung karagatan. Kasi iisang pagkain na pinagsasaluhan nila eh. Where in fact when you say blue ocean strategy, you don't want to be part of that process na nag-aagawan. You develop your own product and services, being innovative, being futuristic, na kung hindi ikaw lang ang nandoon, kasi ikaw lang ang may ganung produkto, maaaring kukunti pa lang kayo. Kaya hindi nyo kailangang magpatayan para doon sa share na yun. Yun yung blue ocean strategy na tinatawag, no? A classic example of that, ganun ang ginawa ni Steve Jobs nung dinevelop niya ang iPhone, no? Wala pa noong panahon na yon na screen, touch screen, no? Siya lang, no? Yung Netflix, nauso tayo ng mga panahon na merong nanghihirap tayo sa mga cassette, ano ba 'to? Hindi cassette, yung mga video tape sa for example ACA o kaya mga sa VHS pa noon, no? So ang ginawa ngayon ni Netflix, instead na manghiram ka ng mga ganun, binigay niya na sa'yo in the comfort of your home. So ito mga to, innovativeness. The idea of the blue ocean strategy is try to know what are the requirements of not of your market but outside of your market. Kasi kung tinignan mo yung market mo, ito na yung kinakain nila ngayon eh. Ito na yung kinakailangan nila ngayon eh. Pero, for example, yung may mga ngayon, di ba, may nauso sa atin noon may mga circus. Di ba, may mga perya. Ngayon, ano na ngayon? Soleil ba yan? Soleil? Yung sosyale na nag-i-stage ba na mga performers. Ang market mo dun during that time sa mga meron naman mga pumupunta sa mga opera house. Ito naman yung mga tao na okay, sosyalin, ayaw nila pero gusto nila limited lang yung seating capacity. So pinag-combine yung mga ganitong performers. No? Ito yung mga example ng Blue Ocean strategies. No? So na-share ko lang sa inyo added information in relation to quality management. Now, sabi ko nga gano'n, naisulat ko dito lahat ng mga documented information. Ito yung mga live documents na kung saan hindi mo kailangan mag-develop ng dokumento as hard copy, pero you need to have this either in a form of either meron kang isang soft copy lang, or for example nakalagay siya sa isang dokumento na not necessarily titled as scope of QMS. For example, yung trade license mo, ando doon naman yung scope ng activity mo eh. Hindi mo kailangan na sabihin scope of QMS. Nandun na siya eh. Pero kailangan may tago yun kasi ebidensya yun na yun ang scope mo. No? Part of your scope. So, scope of QMS, information to support your operation. So, ano yung mga proseso na meron ka? Not necessarily nakadokumento siya or procedure. Kung kaya mong kung ikay ino-audit at kaya mong explain lahat ng ito sa auditor, then well and good. Pero most of the time, may procedure pa rin. Para yun sa mga tao na pwedeng makasunod ba, na hindi ikaw lang nakakaalam. Your policy, it is documented, pero hindi sa totoo lang, hindi naman siya kailangan na may dokumento eh. As long, kaya nga, for example, nag-audit, pinakitaan ka ng policy sa sa screen, kunyari, soft copy lang po kasi meron ako sa policy, well and good. As long as it is a live document. Kasi ang policy, processes, scope, nagbabago yan every minute. Maaari ngayon yung scope mo ganito, ang process mo eto, bukas makalawa. So kung pwedeng hindi yan dokumentado, as well as your objectives. Pwedeng iputulin mo yung objective kasi hindi mo siya masunod, or maaaring extend mo yung objective mo kasi kailangan mo pa ng oras. All these things are live documents. No? And there are 21 records as evidence of conformity. Lahat ng ito nakasulat dito. Ayoko nang isa-isahin. No? So may kopya naman kayo nito. So you can take this and use this as your basis when you try to do your documented information as part of the requirement of the ISO 9001-2015 standard. Now, as I said earlier, hindi lang pala 9001 ang involved sa quality management system. There are other sector-specific application. Ano ito mga to? Merong quality management system para sa mga medical services. Yun yung 13,485. Of 2016. There is quality management system in relation to electoral organizations at all levels of government. Yan yung 54,001. So si COMELEC, pwede siyang magkumuha nito. Ang tanong, no? Balak ba niyang mapa-certify? Kasi pagka ikay na-certify, i-audit ka, baka naman sa Pilipinas, daming hocus-pocus, baka matakot sila, no? Pero kung gusto nila, may 54,001. I-recommend niyo po ito sa Pilipinas para umayos-ayos ang natin, no? Sistema natin doon. Meron namang for local government. Like for example, sa Pasig, kung ano mang sa Maynila, mayroong 18,091, no? Na pwedeng gamitin yung quality management system. Meron din naman mga sa rail organization, like for example, hindi ko lang alam kung ang ating dito sa UAE, yung metro, yung RTA dito or Road Transport Authority, RTA dito ay meron nito. I'm not sure. Tatanungin ko si Sir Rowell. Pero I don't know sa Pilipinas kung interesado rin sila nito, no? Merong standard para dito. Galing ako sa oil and gas industry, kaya ay may idea ko dito sa 29001, which is specific for petroleum, petrochemical, and natural gas industry. And last but not the least, kung ikaw ay nasa IT department or IT business, software engineering, meron din. It is a ISO standard in relation to IEC at IEE. It is 9003. Okay? So ito siya. No? Lahat ito certifiable standards ito. Meaning they can provide certification. Ngayon tatanungin natin, bakit kailangan pa magkaroon ng specific? Bakit hindi ba sapat ang 9001? 9001 was made as generic as possible to be implemented as much as possible across any type of organization. However, this specific type of industries require specific requirements. For example, in the oil and gas industry, nag-discuss ako last time ng process safety. Sa ISO 9001, nakalimutan kong banggitin, nagre-risk-based approach tayo pero hindi, alam niyo ba na hindi kailangan i-dokumento ang risk assessment ng ISO 9001? Hindi kailangan. Samantalang sa 14,001 at 45,001, kailangan yun. Kailangan ng EIA at kailangan ng risk assessment. Kailangan mo lang malaman ng risk and opportunities and how you will evaluate your risk and how you will manage it. Pero hindi niya kailangan ng dokumento, procedure para doon. Samantalang itong 29,001, dahil pamilyar ako rito, ito lang ang masishare ko sa inyo, ito kailangan nila dito ng risk assessment kahit quality management system. Because of the nature of the business. Okay? Now, may mga nakikita ako sa kalsada, sa mga logo, sa mga business, kahit sa internet, sa mga nagbebenta, na sabi, etong makeup kong ito o etong tubig kong ito ay ISO 9001 certified. Mali. Remember, ang ISO certifies your management system, not your products and services. Again, uulitin ko, ISO certifies your management system on how your processes and how you develop and come up with your processes, with your products and services. Pero hindi niya ginagaranti na yung produkto ng aking aking produkto at aking serbisyo ay may ganitong certain level of quality. Hindi siya performance standard. It is a management system standard. Hindi katulad nitong mga nasa kaliwa na to. Ito, kinopya ko ito sa Pilipinas. Kasi sa Pilipinas, may tinatawag silang Bureau Product Standard. Tama ba? Bureau Philippine Standard. Ito o BPS. Okay, BPS. Ito, tinatawag itong product standard kasi ang trabaho nila para alamin ang level, yung safety at saka yung quality ng produkto. Wala silang pakialam kung anong management system ang ginagamit mo para mag-produce mo yan. Kailangan nilang malaman kung nagko-comply ba yun sa requirements nila. So if you are aiming for a product that requires safety, dito siya. When it comes to quality, ito siya. PS mark, yan, no? Philippine Standard mark siya. Etong PS mark, binibigay daw ito, ayon sa nabasa ko, binibigay lang daw ito sa mga manufacturer, okay? Local and foreign. O kaya nga yung mga pag bumibili tayo ng mga produkto natin, like may silya tayong binili at inupuan, tingnan niyo kung may ganyang standard para sigurado kayo na hindi ka lulubog doon sa inuupuan mo kasi nga dumaan yon sa quality check at saka sa safety check. Okay? Etong ICC naman, they call that imported, what they call this? Imported compliance ba yan? I forgot exactly the term. Sorry. Import commodity, import commodity clearance. Okay, binibigay rin ito ng BPS, no? Ito naman, binibigay ito para sa mga imported products na pumapasok sa bansa ng Pilipinas at pumasa sa standard ng Pilipinas. Okay? So magkaiba sila, ha? ISO is a management system standard while these standards are product standard. So wala akong makikita, I hope at clear ito,
na ang ISO 9001 ay nilagay sa produktong ito. Hindi. Ito ay nilagay dapat doon sa kumpanya kasi sinacertify mo yung kumpanya na kung saan meron siyang management system to provide the product and services to the client. Okay? Kasi may mga nakikita pa ako, HACCP, no? Ang HACCP katulad din yun ng ISO, no? Pina-certify mo yung proseso at yung sistema, hindi yung produkto. Maling-mali ilalagay mo yan sa tubig, sa pagkain, kasi hindi, it is not a product standard. It's not a performance standard. Okay? So, ISO 9001 is not a performance standard to measure the quality of organization's product and services. It is a standard that establishes the need to systematize and formalize a whole series of organization's processes into a series of procedures and document its implementation. In short, being certified to 9001-2015 standard means having documentation to show that the implementation of the QMS, including standardized and documented procedures of basic processes used to produce the products and services required by customer. Kaya nga, nung natatandaan ko, nung nabubuhay pa yung aking father, kasi he used to work as an auditor, nung nasa Saudi Aramco siya, as an electrical engineering po kasi pinapos ang father ko. Manufacturing. Sila ano siya, no? Isa sa nasa manufacturing side sila nung time na yun. Sabi niya gano'n, internal auditor, sabi niya, totoo lang, madali lang naman pumasa sa ISO 9001 kung ikaw gusto mo magpa-certify. Kasi bakit? Ito kasi yung principle ng ISO. Document what you do. Do what you document and verify that you are doing it. So kung gusto mo pala, simplihan mo, simple lang. Kaya nga dina-advise, pag ikaw gagawa ng documentation dati sa ISO, huwag yung masyadong makapal at masyadong madami at maraming laman. Simplihan mo lang. Kumbaga, kung paano ka nagkukwento sa akin ng paano mo ginagawa yung procedure na yun, ay itong prosesong yun, isulat mo. Yun na yun mismo gamitin mong procedure. Kasi sigurado ko, magagawa mo yun. Dahil yung sinulat mo, siyang sinabi mo, na yun yung mismong ginagawa mo. So, ang iba kasi kadalasan, napaka-meticuloso ng documentation, napakaganda, napakakapal. At the end of the day, hindi naman kayang gawin. So the auditor will only check if you comply with your own standard, own requirements, and the international standard, which is the requirements of the ISO 9001-2015 standard, which is very clear in the ISO standard. Define siya. Okay? Ngayon, remember, ang binibigay sa atin ng ISO standard is what are the requirements. For example, kailangan ko na kapag mayroong non-conformity, kailangan ko imbestigahan siya, malaman ko anong dahilan at para ano yung root cause nun para mabigay ng tamang corrective action. Yun, di ba? Yun yung hinihingi niya eh. Sinabi ba ni ISO 9001 paano mo gagawin? So it means ISO 9000 only provides us what is the requirement, but not how to achieve that requirement. Okay? How? Saan mo ngayon huhugutin si how? May mga annexes na binibigay sa ISO para to give you guidance on how to do it. Like for example, ISO 9002 provides actually the guidance on how to do it. But actually, in reality, vague pa rin siya, malawak pa rin. No? Binibigay pa rin yung liberty how to implement the management system to the organization. Dito na pumapasok yung mga methodologies, yung mga tools for quality management system, katulad ng Lean Management, Six Sigma Management. Okay? Etong Lean Six Sigma na to, it will answer the question of how am I going to produce the investigation and identify the root cause and invest in the corrective action. Sinasagot niya na yung how. Pero sa 9001, ang binibigay niya lang sa inyo, si what. Ngayon, ang tanong, hindi ba importante si 9001? Pwede ba si Lean Six Sigma na lang? They are complementary with each other. Hindi mo alam kung ano yung gagawin mo or paano mo siya, di mo alam kung anong dapat mong gawin, which is yung requirement ng Lean Six Sigma, kung di mo alam kung ano yung pangangailangan mo, which is the requirement of the 9001. So they are working hand in hand. Okay? So these are my references, and hopefully I managed to explain as much as possible the simplicity of the standard, and I'm looking forward ngayon po sa mga magtatanong. Thank you po.
Ayos. Maraming salamat po, Doc, no? And lalo na sa mga participants na I think it's 3 hours from 2 to
Pwede ko lang
5.
stop yung sharing.
Sige, pwede. So before tayo mag-proceed sa Q&A, may I request everyone to switch on your cameras para makapag-screenshot tayo habang marami pa tayo. Kasi syempre gumagabi na dyan. Alam ko yung iba, early, left of the meeting.
Oras ko pala biin. Sa sensya na po kayo.
Mahirap po yung mahirap i-compress yung topic ng management system.
Sabi ko, kinakabahan ako. First time ko kasi ito itinuro. So I hope na kahit papano nagawan ko ng justice ba yung aking pagtuturo. Especially for those people who are, you can say, seasoned or experts in quality management system. I am open for corrections and improvement in my understanding with this management system.
So, yung questions na yan, entertain natin after nitong screenshot. Christian, patulong na lang sa screenshot. Okay? Antay lang ho natin yung iba. Pwedeng paki-switch on ho yung inyong camera para may pruweba. Okay, pwede na siguro. Okay. Sabay-sabay po at the count of 3, let's look into the camera. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Isa pa hong screenshot at marami-rami ho tayo. Okay, at the count of 3 po uli. 1, 2, 3. Okay, ayos. Maraming salamat po. Now, going back po sa ating presentation, Q&A na ho. Baka po meron kayong gustong itanong sa ating presenter. No? Tinry niya ho talagang i-compress yung topic as much as possible para maintindihan natin. And syempre, hindi naman natin maintindihan to fully without attending other management system trainings. Ano ba yung essence niya? And we did not focus sa clauses per se. No? Kasi what we want is for you to understand what's the quality management system. What is it? No? So, sige po, baka meron po kayong mga tanong. Please, wait, let me allow. Please open your mic. Just introduce yourself. If you don't want to speak, you can type it on the chat box po. Okay, merong tanong ho dito si Sir Jonel. Sir, pwede po ba mag-apply ang LGU ng per department ISO 9001-2015 or the agency as a whole talaga po?
As I said, flexible ang ISO. Hindi siya nagre-restrict kung ano yung scope na gusto mo. No? As I said, some organizations, they prefer as test, parang trial basis na isang departamento muna. Then after that, kapag nakita nila maganda na, okay, pwede nilang i-absorb yung susunod na departamento until such time na lahat ng mga departamento ay confident na as far as the conformity to the management system. So wala pong restriction. But as I said, the scope of the quality management system doesn't necessarily mean that the same scope that you can see in the certification. Kasi yung gusto mo lang ipa-certify, kunyari itong departamento lang na ito lang nasa loob ng certification mo. Pero hindi ibig sabihin, yun lang ang sakop ng quality management system mo. May malawak na sakop ang quality management system mo. Kanya lang, hindi siya parte ng certification mo.
Doc, good evening. Thank you pala sa sa magandang presentation. Actually, may good news, no? Yung local government talaga meron ng application ng QMS. Bagong labas lang siya. Siguro habang nagtatanong, kalalabas lang. Actually, nabasa ko siya nakaraan. Meron ng bagong labas. So, applicable talaga siya at sa Pilipinas, marami na ring mga agency at government entity na nag-i-implement na ng QMS. So, hopefully, mas dumami pa. No? Lalo na ngayon, natuto tayo kay Doc Roy. Napakaganda ng paliwanag.
Sir, ilang revision yung aking up to the last minute, parang 30 minutes lang ako, nagre-revise pa ako ng slides ko kasi hindi ko alam talaga, nervous ako.
Pero Doc, kita mo Doc, di ba? Mas maganda yung iniba natin yung step kumpara sa normal na natutunan natin sa pag-attend ng mga training when it comes sa QMS. No? Alam ni Christian yan, siguro. Salamat Doc ha. Congrats.
Salamat.
Naman yung pagkakaiba po ng PDA cycle ng ISO 14 tsaka yung ISO 9001. Ngayon ko lang na-spot yung difference. Ay, ganun pala.
Sir, question, Sir Roy.
Opo. Sino po?
Sir, tanong ko lang, Sir. Sir, meron ba mga STO na certified ng ISO Quality Management System? Yung mga STO natin, mga Safety Training Organization.
Ay, sir, hindi
Wala
ko
po ba, sir?
kabisado eh. Kasi pwede nyo naman po silang kung kayo po ay kliyente, kasi nga interested party kayo, di ba? Kasi nga kukuha kayo ng, for example, training sa kanila.
Yes,
So,
yes.
considered po kayo na kliyente nila, so customer kayo. May karapatan po kayo magtanong sa kanila or hingi ng kopya ng kanilang ISO certification kung sakaling certified po sila.
Pero Doc, sa observation ko, Sir, sa mga Facebook nakikita ko wala pa akong nakikitang certified ng QMS na STO sa Pilipinas. I don't know kung meron iba dyan na.
Ito na yung way for them to consider that kasi marami naman pong umattend mga kasama natin mga members sa STO.
Yes, except sa Occupational Safety Health Center, certified yan. Yung sa government, sa DOLE. Pero yung STO, Accredited Safety Training Organization, wala pa akong nakikitang certified ng QMS yan.
Siguro Cadelpin, yung itatayo pa lang ni Cadelpin, baka yun pa lang mauna.
With all the respect, kami rin po, yun ang aim namin. Actually, when we were discussing about this management system month, one of the things that we were aiming to, being an organization itself, gusto din namin, kami mismo, dapat certified din kami. Nabanggit ko to kay Sir Albino eh. There was a time na binanggit ko to. Kasi parang, how we can demonstrate yung walk the talk ba? How can we demonstrate that we are knowledgeable, hopefully, resource people on the part of management system kung kami wala din. No? Hopefully, bata po kasi kami, no? Pero baka malay ninyo, dadating yung time kami din po aim namin ng ganitong mga kasi gastos po eh. Pero
parang pinariringgan mo si Cadelpin, bata pa po kami, ba't ganun naman?
Good evening po.
Siguro,
Sir,
dagdag ko lang before tayo mag-proceed kay Sir Panfilo kasi may tanong din siya. Ang aim naman ho kasi ng ISO, hindi naman po siya mandatory, no? Ang essence is mapakita mo na may sistema ka with regards dyan sa quality. No? Kasi in reality, mahal ho talaga magpa-certify. No? Kaya ang ginagawa ng iba, nag-i-establish muna sila ng sistema. Then, pagka-ready na sila, apply na lang sila para syempre, kasi syempre pagka hindi ka na-issuehan, nabigyan ka non-conformity nga ng sinasabi kanina, pwedeng i-reject ka, hindi ka bigyan ng certification. No? Sayang din, added cost rin yun sa company. No? Kaya, magandang suggestion. But again, the essence is, napakita mo muna kaya mong i-establish. And that is the reason why we're doing this training, no? To assist yung mga participants natin na even without the ISO itself certification, you can establish system first, no?
Kaya nga yung FILSA, nag-i-implement na, pero hindi pa certified.
Yes.
correct. Precisely.
Exactly.
Doc, additional Doc, ito naman observe, marami mga STO nag-o-offer ng mga international training katulad ng IOS, Occupational Management System, OSHA Academy, as training service provider pero hindi sila certified ng ISO o QMS. Paano po yun to? Manila,
Yes,
sa
sir.
Manila, marami kayo sa Manila sir, mga STO. Offering management, IOS, MS, mga international safety training. But they are not certified ng international. Paano po yan? Nag-o-offer sila ng international training or safety training but they are not yet certified as a STO. Paano po yun?
Doc, ako sasagot.
Ako po.
Teka po, clarify ko lang po yung concern ninyo, no? May mga STO, ulitin ko lang po just to make it clarified, no? May mga STO na nagpo-provide ng services and giving trainings in line with international requirements like IOS, Managing Safely, and NIBOS, for example. Tama po ba?
Yes, yes.
Okay. However, your concern is that these companies, these STOs, are not ISO certified. Am I right? Tama
Yes.
po ba?
Yes, right, Doc, right.
Unfortunately po, wala po silang connection. Kasi the ISO is a management system standard regardless of the organization's nature and business, where in fact IOS and NIBOS have their own system in place to evaluate and audit the training providers providing their qualifications. So the the IOS and the NIBOS body in the UK have their means or they have their own system in place to evaluate the training providers who are providing their qualifications, who are providing the services of their qualifications. So magkaiba po talaga sila. So hindi po required na ma-ISO certified yung mga nagbibigay din ng NIBOS at IOS. Yun po.
Thank you very much,
In short,
Doc.
Doc, in short, Doc, hindi siya mandatory but it added value kung ang isang STO, mga training provider ay ISO certified. Parang gano'n na lang yun.
Okay po. Sir Panfilo, kanina po, meron
Dagdag na lang po yung kasi pag yung sinabi kanina pag yung STO hindi siya ISO. Parang ano po yung DOLE kasi halimbawa yung isang department ISO na siya. Pag inaka-accredited niya parang ganoon na rin po. Yung agency na mag-accredited, halimbawa TESDA, yung mga training center na ina-accredited niya, parang pumasa sa kanila.
Tama po, Sir Panfilo. And in addition po, sabi ni Sir Noel, sa Facebook po siya nanonood ngayon, no? Which is important na ang nagpo-provide ng safety trainings must be certified by DOLE, not by ISO. Which is yun yung minimum requirement na tinutukoy natin kanina. No? Tayo bilang kliyente na uma-attend ng trainings from training organizations, we need to make sure na yung training organization na ina-attenda natin is certified by DOLE. No? Accredited by DOLE rather. No? So that's the priority na una nating tinitingnan.
But ma'am, for the sake of discussion and habang nandito si Doc Roy, no? Yung sinabi ni Sir, hindi ganun yung prinsipyo, no? Doc, correct me if I'm wrong. No? Hindi ganun yung prinsipyo na porque DOLE ang nag-approve sa mga STO, embedded na parang ISO certified na rin. No? Hindi ganun yung prinsipyo. No? Kasi the way ng explanation ni Doc Roy nga kanina, kung customer focus yung may customer requirements. Ang requirements ng DOLE OSC ay iba sa requirements ng STO. So doon pala mag-iiba na kagad yung mga requirements eh. Tama ba, Doc? Ganun ang magiging prinsipyo niyan. May sariling customer requirements ang STO at ang DOLE at meron ding satisfaction, no? For example, ikaw nag-apply ka ng ng training sa isang STO. Yung satisfaction mo magbabari yan depende sa delivery ng specific STO. But it doesn't mean lahat ng in-approve ng DOLE OSC na STO ay pare-parehas ng services o ng quality. Correct, Doc?
Yes.
Parang ganun po yun. Ganun lalabas po yun. Opo.
Okay po. Yes po, Sir Delphine.
Sir, may mga STO na malakas maningil pero ang quality ng training mahina. Ang dami ko naranasan na ganyan eh. Sabi, we are quality training. Ano ang basis bakit naging quality sila? Hindi naman sila ISO certified. Anong basis ng quality of training nila? di ba? Good quality.
Sir, nandoon kasi yung pumapasok yung free market label, free market tayo eh. So ibig sabihin, there's no restriction as a client or as a customer to choose the type of who will be providing the products and services that we wanted. So, kumbaga, democratic form tayo kasi. Kung sa tingin niyo itong mga kumpanyang ito are not justified to conduct such kind of services with respect to the cost involved, kayo na pong bahala na tumanggi sa kanila. Remember, we are talking about here marketing principles. No? So, at the end of the day, you can only fool once the people, but you cannot fool them every time. So kapag hindi, gaya itong prinsipyo namin sa FILSA, bakit ganito kami kalakas ng loob? Siguro malakas at makapal ang mukha. To conduct this kind of trainings online, live. Wala kaming sinisino. Nagtanong na kayo, hagilapin nyo na lahat. No? Hindi namin sinasabing alam namin lahat. But what I'm saying is that we still, we tried our best to uphold that level of integrity, that competency, and the quality of the type of trainings that we are providing to our clients. Kayo po yun, na sa tingin namin, hindi namin kailangan ng masyadong maraming pera to promote because from your own experience, you can promote us. Parang ganun lang. Word of mouth. Yun na yun.
Tama, Doc. Absolutely right.
Tsaka Doc, yung indicator niyan, si Ma'am Delphine, hanggang ngayon, nandito pa nag-a-attend. I mean, dito napapakita rin natin na hindi basihan yung halaga, yung presyo ng training para masabi mo may quality. No? So, I mean,
President, yung inatinan kong isang training STO, 3 oras ang bayad, 5, samantalang to 3 oras ang diniscuss ni Doktor, talagang kwalidad talaga eh. Babayad
pero
na
wala po akong pera ha. Baka kailangan ko ng pera kasi nangailangan ako.
Sir, as a third party, I'm now evaluating, sir. Tama talaga, sir. Thank you very much, Doc.
Thank you, Sir Delphine. No? Kay sabi rin ni Sir Panfilo, baka raw magkaroon tayo ng training ng Lean Six Sigma, no? We don't know in the future, no? But at the moment, let's focus sa management system training natin for the entire month.
Parang umuuna kagad si Doc Roy. Parang nakita ko yung ngiti.
Ayun na yun.
Ito nga, ninenervyos na ako dun sa training na to eh. Mag-Lean Six Sigma pa ako. Kailangan talaga ng expert doon sa subject matter niya.
Andiyan naman si Ma'am MJ.
Adwana. Ay! Okay, may tanong si Miss Christine. Sir, for a laboratory ng isang company, would it be okay to just be certified for QMS, EMS, or OSAS, or need din namin magpa-certify for ISO 17025?
Hinahanap ko yung okay. Certified.
Yeah. So ISO 17025 for everyone's knowledge po is accreditation of testing laboratories, testing and calibration laboratories. So
depende po sa pangangailangan ng organization nyo eh. At the end of the day, remember your organization requirement lies on the requirement of your interested parties. Kaya nga inaalam nyo yung needs and expectations ng interested parties nyo. Hinihingan ba kayo ng interested parties ninyo na magpa-certify kayo sa mga ISO standards na to? Kasi kung hindi naman, bakit? As I said, what we wanted to emphasize here, although we are not, hopefully, maging sponsor namin ng ISO kasi pinopromote namin yung ISO standard. Pero honestly speaking, hindi namin sila, hindi kailangan. Ang gustong ituro namin dito sa FILSA is that we need to have an established management system para systematized ang business ninyo. Whether are you going for a certified body like ISO, or in the UK, they have other standards which doesn't require certification and the standards are free of cost. So, hindi kailangan, no? For example, ngayon, parang dinabaliwala ng ISO 9001 dahil lumabas ng API or American Petroleum Institute na sabi nila mas mahigpit pa, hindi hamak kumpara sa 9001. And most of these companies are oil and gas companies. Sila kasi, alam niyo kasi itong 9001 na to, ayon nung natatandaan ko nung inaral ko to way back 2007, 2006 that time. Ang sabi sa akin, nagawa ito 1987 kasi sa pangangailangan ng maritime industry. Kaya nga yung mga sinaunang nag-craft netong ISO standard na to ay mga nasa marine industry. And the certification bodies that were originally part of the ISO body na nag-decide nito is yung Det Norske Veritas, DNV, DNV at saka ng Lloyd's Register. Kaya magaganda yung mga, hindi ko sila pinopromote, no? Although lahat ng trainings ko at lahat ng ko doon sa DNV. Pero magaganda yung kanilang kasi nga, sila kasi yung pioneer eh. From the start, alam nila yung history ng ISO. No? That's the reason why if you will notice all of these standards, yung mga logos netong mga may anchor na nakasama sa ISO standards nila. Kasi the ISO standard was made initially because of the maritime industry requirement. Nung panahon kasi ngayon, mahirap ang yung yung, di ba kaya nga lumubog ang lumubog ang Titanic, di ba? Wala kasi mga, radar systems. So kailangan may systematized management na dapat i-implement in the maritime industry during that time. So, yun lang po.
Thank you po. No? And before we proceed kay Sir Joffren, sa question niya, nag-raise siya ng hand. Since connected tong question ni Sir Carl, no? Siya naman nasa agricultural industries, which also produces, manufactures food products. So, what ISO do you suggest for us to apply for certification? QMS or FSMS, food safety?
Yung po kasi ISO 9001 or the QMS is actually the foundation of all management systems. Kasi diyan nga nakapasok yung documentary requirements of the kasi process-based siya. Incorporate yung process-based na yun, and it is expected that all management system standards should also consider process-based approach. Process-based approach. So kahit yan ay 14,001, 45,001 or food safety management system yan, parehas pa rin ang approach niya process-based no? And you will notice hindi sila mutually exclusive o hindi mo mapaghihiwalay. Pag ikaw nag-apply or nag-certify ng isang management system, for example, 14,001 food safety management system or 45,001 or security management system, kakailanganin mo na itong mga dokumentong kung saan nakasulat din ito sa 9001. So definitely, ano man yung requirement ng QMS mo or FSMS, okay lang. Kaya lang, dahil sinasabi mo, specific yung industry mo, I would suggest, pumasok ka sa food safety management system. Kasi when you address the food safety management system, you are targeting both the QMS and the specific requirement of your industry. Yun po.
Thank you. Thank you. Sana nasagot ang question ni Sir Carl. Sir Joffren, yes po. Please open your mic.
Po sa inyo po lahat, lalo po sa mga FILSA administrators and staffs. Magandang hapon din po mula doon sa UAE FILSA members. Ito po lang ang aking katanungan. Ako nga po pala si Mr. Joffren Gagarin, former military po. And then now is nasa corporate. I have been with several corporates since I left my military service. However, this is the thing that I have observed or noticed. Yung ating po bang mga aspiring corporate or companies for ISO certification, sadya po ba talagang lahat ng ISO standards ay matatalakay like yung quality management system, information security management system, environmental management system, facility management system, and so on and so forth. Lahat po ba yun ay makakasama at mapapabilang doon sa tinatawag na ISO post and pre-audit na ginagawa nila?
Again, sir, just to clarify yung dulong part, ano po yung ba kakasama sila sa?
Masasama po ba sa tinatalakay o coverage ng audit, no, ng ISO audit itong lahat ng mga ISO standards natin, like yung quality management system, environmental management system, energy management systems, facility and ISMS, and so on and so
Opo.
forth.
Okay. Remember po, ang audit is, one of the audit requirements is to define the scope of your audit. So, ibig sabihin po, kailangan from the start, bago i-conduct ang audit, alam ng auditor at ng auditee kung ano lang yung sakop ng audit na gagawin sa kanya. So, it means that if in case that the audit will be conducted in line with the 9001-2015 standard, so it means all the questions, all the evaluations, all the reviews that will be conducted should only be in line with the ISO 9001 standard only. So, kahit ako ay certified auditor ng 10 standard, hindi ko siya pwedeng i-audit lahat sabay-sabay kung hindi naman siya nakapaloob doon sa scope ng audit ko. So, for example po, ako classic example, no? Nag-audit ako ng health and safety at saka ng environment. So, I'm auditing the 14,001 standard, conformance to the standard, and 45,001. Ito po ang problema. Nag-audit ko, may nakita ko na problema, pero non-conformity siya. Pero ang problema, hindi siya nakapaloob sa 14,001 at sa 45,001. Parte siya ng quality. Kasi for example, hindi ma-define kung paano yung tamang pag-evaluate ng external providers. Quality yan eh. Ngayon, hindi ko ngayon pwede isulat as my finding na hindi siya marunong or walang ganong sistema, no? Dahil nag-audit ako against 14,001 and 45,001, hindi ko siya pwede ilagay kasi under quality siya. Ngayon, nahanap ako ng paraan na kung saan hanapin ko yung koneksyon na itong finding na to sa dalawang standard na ino-audit ko. O sige, wala kang sistema sa pag-evaluate mo ng external provider. Meron bang implication sa health and safety and environment kapag hindi mo nagawa ng tama yan? Doon ko ngayon sila titirahin sa 14,001 and 45,001 because that is the scope of my audit. Although it was originally identified as part of the quality requirement, quality management system requirement. Do you get my point po?
Yes, sir. Yes, Doc.
Okay. Yun po.
Thank you, sir. My next question po, lulubusin ko na po ha.
Okay lang po.
Yung lead implementer course at ang lead auditor course po ng lahat ng ISO standards ay magkaparehas po ba yan o magkaiba?
Gaya po na kaya merong hiwa-hiwalay sila, ibig sabihin may specific discipline requirement ang bawat standard. Gaya na ang 14,001 ay focus sa environmental management at ang 45,000 ay occupational health and safety management. Magkakaiba din po yung focus ng studies na ginagawa ng mga nag-undergo ng lead auditor courses for a specific type of standard. So obviously, kung sila ay lead auditor ng 14,001, doon lang sila certified. So hindi mo po pwede silang isalpak. And though during that time when I was auditing one of the external providers or one of the suppliers in the company, I was questioning them, why is it that they don't have, in the first place I was asking, who are your internal auditors? When they showed me that they have this internal auditor and only attended an ISO 14,000 if I'm not mistaken, tapos wala siyang 45,001 or 18,001 during that time, I already questioned the level of competency and the accuracy of the audit findings na binigay niya. Kasi kung hindi ka trained, anong alam mo dun sa subject matter? It's not a question of knowing as far as knowing is concerned, but the certification gives you the authority to audit. So that authority bears certain responsibility. So hindi po pwede na one-stop shop na isang auditor course lang, the rest okay na lahat. Hindi po ganun. May
Okay, sir.
specific requirement po sila bawat standard.
Okay, sir. Thank you for that, sir.
Most
And
welcome po.
last question po.
Meron pa po. Sige po.
Last po. Ito po ay patungkol naman dito sa kursong ito. Yung aming kinuha or yung aming interest to complete the QMS course sa inyo ay hanggang kailan po ang validation nito? Lalo na't we desire to have a certificate. Unfortunately, hindi yung iba dito siguro hindi lang makapagsalita, no? Hindi pa namin ma-acquire dahil nga certain amount is needed. And one thing more is that actually mas gusto nga namin maging member na rin agad. However, yun nga may membership fee rin, ano. So hanggang kailan po ang validation po ng ating training na ito para makapag-acquire din kami ng certificate?
Europe, ikaw na sumagot.
Sa amin po dito sa FILSA, sabi ko nga ho kanina during the intro, libre po ito. So kung kayo ho ay kukuha ng certificate, anytime po walang problema as long as umattend po kayo ng training na to. Naiintindihan ho namin yung issue ng bawat isa. And syempre, yung iba mas prefer nila buuan na nilang kuhanin eh. And obviously, we always suggest na better na magpa-member ho muna kayo. Then saan nyo kuhanin yung certificate para may...
Actually, meron kayong 4 na schedules magkakasunod for the month, ano?
Oo, nako.
At yun nga, ang target din namin, kunin muna lahat. However, kung mapapaaga nga yung membership, mas malelesen dapat yung certificate.
Apo. Yun lang. Ayan po ito po yung presidente pala namin ng FILSA, no? Yung
Sino?
Yung naka-pink.
Ikaw, hindi ka ba nagtuturo? Nagtuturo ka na.
Papaduro yan eh.
Di ba, sir, kung gusto nyo naman ng makatipid talaga, hanapan nyo ang sponsor ng FILSA. Yun ang sinasuggest ko sa kasi kami naman po bilang NGO, nangangarap din naman na ibigay ng libre rin, no? Not only yung service namin. Kung may mag-sponsor ng mga certificates nyo, syempre, NGO to, kailangan ho namin tumakbo, kailangan ho namin ng revolving fund para naman masustain namin yung mga projects namin. So, ngayon po, tama yung sinabi ni Secretary na as long na umattend po kayo at after 1 month, so meldo kayo, pwede ko bang kunin yung certification ko sa QMS? Andyan po, open po kami. Basta ma-check namin sa attendance.
Tapos, syempre, dagdag ko lang press, no? May iba kasi na uma-attend sa Facebook, hindi makapag-join, no? Wala akong problema kahit umattend kayo sa Facebook. Although we encourage na umattend kayo sa Zoom. Pag sa Facebook naman po kayo, since we don't have proof kung talagang naka-attend kayo ng tuloy-tuloy, unlike here sa Zoom, we encourage you to submit your insights, no? At least in 250 words, nandiyo lang sa email, para malaman din namin kung ano ba yung natutunan ninyo from this training. But sige po, Pres.
Ma'am FYI, no, tanungin natin si Doc, magkano ang bayad ng awareness na itong training na binigay natin sa Dubai? Magkano po bayad?
Sir, ano yan? More or less, kung DNV ka, kasi sabi ko nga, bilib ako sa kanila dahil isa ako sa mga naka-benefit, no? Kapal na mukha, no? Protege ako eh. So, kumbaga, yung quality of their training reflects on how I understood the subject matter. So, nasa po, almost 2,000 dirhams, where it's almost, 28,000 pesos?
Ano po, sir, 28,000 pesos po. Sa FILSA, binigay po namin ng libre. Pwede nyo pang hulugan yung certificate. At magpa-member po kayo.
Just to add up po, kahit na pinopromote ko ang DNV, hindi nila itinuro itong mga binigay ko.
Totoo, yun yung sinasabi natin.
Tinatest, kahit tanongin mo si Chris, with regards to the framework, walang nag-explain yan. Ako, natutunan ko lang din yan recently. And natuwa din ako kasi sabi ko, it's an eye-opener for me. All the while, I thought I know about quality management system. And it is an eye-opener for me na meron pa lang dapat pa ako matutunan.
Mas magandang
Hindi ka dapat makontento lang.
Ito.
Marami ka pang matututunan. Hagilapin mo. Be a leader. Huwag ka maging ma-stagnant na okay na to. Hanapin mo kung hindi mo alam. Magtanong ka kahit na may alam. Tanungin mo yung sarili mo. Magmukha kang tanga. Ano pa ba yung sa tingin ko alam, hindi ko alam? At by that time, malalaman mo kung ano yung dapat mo pa matututunan. Yun lang po.
Actually, Doc, yung sinasabi nyo kanina, yung risk and opportunity, no? Yan yung ginawa natin ngayon. Nag-deviate tayo from the normal norms nung the way nung magturo yung mga training provider ng QMS. At eto yung naging resulta, no? Na mas magaganda, mas madali palang maintindihan. Yun ito yung napagmitigan natin before we deliver this training, no? So, kaya saludo ako sa iyo, Doc. Salamat. Sige po. Opo. Si Sir, baka ano. Sir, okay na po. Sir, ano?
Okay na po. Maraming salamat po sa inyo, sir.
Sir,
Doc,
request lang po
ma'am.
namin sa inyo po, tsaka sa mga nandito, ipaki-like, share po yung video page po ng FILSA. At kung magko-comment po kayo, magpasalamat, malaking bagay na po. Yun lang po hiniling namin sa ngayon. Salamat lang po.
No worries, sir. No worries, sir. Recommendation is highly appreciated.
Thank you, sir. Saludo po kami sa sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay po. Before po tayo mag-proceed kay Sir Mark, meron hong tanong dito na related si Sir Joseph, no? With regards sa audit, magbibigay raw po ba ng audit plan? Siguro before mag-start yung audit, meron bang audit plan na ibibigay? Yan.
Dapat po lahat ng information with regards to the audit should be transparent. No? Hindi, sabi ko nga, there's no such thing as surprise audit kasi hahalukayin mo lahat ng mga information at dokumento eh. Remember, ayaw ng organisasyon, kaya alam mo maraming organisasyon ayaw dito sa management system. Hindi dahil sa management system itself, kasi sa mga nagpapatupad. Isipin mo, bigla mong ipapasarado ang isang kumpanya o isang departamento kasi gusto mo lang siya i-audit ng biglaan without informing. Sa palagay mo, sinong manager, sinong operations manager or administrative manager ang matutuwa sa iyo? Bigla-bigla eh. It should be properly communicated. All the requirements should be set kasi alam ninyo, kung ikaw ay magaling na auditor at kung ikaw naman ay sumusunod na auditing, wala kang dapat ikatakot. Kung magaling kang auditor, kahit na anong tago niyan, makikita at makikita ang problema. Even if it is just a random sampling. Kasi wala namang sistemang kaya mong itago for life. May lalabas at lalabas yan. Okay? And at the part of the auditee, no matter how prepared or unprepared you are, if there is already system in place, kaya nga sistema kami ni-audit natin eh. Pag sistema, tinatanggal mo yung personality aspect doon. Kaya sino man ang umupo diyan, pag may sistema, parehas pa rin ang mangyayari. Kasi ayaw natin na maapektuhan ng business because iilan lang ang nakakaalam ng ginagawa niya.
Hindi, Doc, tsaka in addition, Doc, siguro, meron yung audit plan talaga in advance. Sinesend yan sa involved parties, no? At inaano rin doon, in-explain yung scope at sino yung right person na i-audit, no? Yun po yung ano yan. Yung experience ko, ganun po nung in-audit ako ng Dubai Petroleum, meron silang advance na sa amin. Then, yun nga. Maganda naman, meron pang mga ethics pa ngayon kung paano yung tamang pagtatanong, di ba? Ipinaliliwanag lahat yan. Yun po.
Thank you po. I hope nasagot naman yung tanong ni Sir Joseph. Sir Mark, nag-raise po kayo ng hand kanina. Can you please open your mic?
Magandang gabi po. Ako po si Mark. Isa po akong chemical engineer din, sir. Katulad. Tanong ko lang po, baka lang po alam niyo yung para naman po sa maintenance and engineering, ano po kayang ISO ang pwede naming sundan or mag-focus lang ba kami sa TPM? Yun na lang ba yung standard na meron kaming pwedeng i-apply?
Ano po ba yung pinag-usapan natin, yung serbisyo at produkto ninyo?
Yes, sir. Yung ano namin, service namin as a department na binibigay sa sa planta.
Pwede naman na po yun, 9,001. Sabi ko nga, if ano to, chemical manufacturing or what specific business is this?
Ano po, cosmetics and pharmaceutical po.
Okay.
Yung engineering department po, gustong baguhin yung, parang gustong i-improve yung kanilang department. Meron po ba silang pwedeng sundan na sistema? For example, di ba, pag QA, usually QMS, and FSMS pag sa food. Pag sa pharma, FDA yan. Pag sa engineering department po kaya and maintenance department.
Kasi may facility management system eh. Kaya lang, typically yung facility management system ay typical facilities, but not necessarily as far as your products and manufacturing is concerned. Yun yung kagandahan ng ISO standard, yung 9001. No? Generic siya. So kahit na ano pa yung produkto mo o ano man ang serbisyo mo, at the end of the day, your objective is to enhance your customer satisfaction and product the desired quality of your products and services. Kung ano man, kahit technical pa yan, hindi siya ganun ka-technical. At the end of the day, yun lang naman ang batayan ng ISO. Kaya nga sabi ko, napakadali, kung tutuusin, napakadali i-comply ng quality management system. Kasi at the end of the day, ang objective mo lang naman, mapasaya mo yung customer eh. At pag napasaya mo yung customer, masaya rin yung business mo kasi maganda yung takbo ng business mo. Kaya hindi mahirap kausap ng management ang mga quality. Actually, close nga mga QA at saka mga top management most of the time. Mga sabihin mo na hindi kasing higpit, kunyari ako ay mag-audit sa safety o kaya sa environment, may parang may invasion ng Russia sa Ukraine ang nangyayari kapag nag-uusap kami. Kasi nga, hindi agad-agad nakikita ng management yung importance ng audit ko as far as health, safety, and environment. Pero pagdating sa quality, kitang-kita nila kasi pag maganda ang takbo ng produkto at ng serbisyo, maganda rin ang business.
Siguro sir, kung magandang company sila at capable naman, I suggest na mag-integrated na lang sila. Which is kung a-attend ka sa next Saturday, ano mo yun sa environment as well as sa safety, marirealize mo na pwede rin naman pala mag-integrated ako. So no question about it siguro po.
I agree po. Salamat po sa insight, sir. And
Most
sir,
welcome.
salamat po.
Thank you po.
Sir, madagdag ko lang din. Si Jerry to, sir.
Yes, sir. Opo.
Regarding dun sa tanong ni kanina ni sir, no, sa engineering and maintenance. Actually applicable naman yung ISO 9000 2015. Meron naman kasing mga scope doon na kino-cover din engineering. Mas maganda nga kung QMS cover na kasama yung sa QC nyo. Kasi malawak naman, gaya ng sinabi ni Dr. Roy, malawak naman yung ng ISO. Kasi kami, yun naman ang sinusdin namin. Part din naman kami ng as an engineering and maintenance. Kaya guidelines din namin yung ISO 9001. Yun lang.
Thank you, sir. Thank you po.
Siguro Jer, mas maganda kung kukunin niyo yung email. Baka mas-share mo pa mas malupitan.
Yung alin? Yung
email mo. Baka mas mag-guide natin si sir.
Oo nga, sir. Baka pwede. Salamat po, Sir Jerry.
Thank you.
Pwede mo ko email mo, sir.
sir, sige, ko sa chat box.
Ayun, maraming salamat po. Okay, may tanong po si Sir Christian kanina, nagre-raise po siya ng hand. Sir Christian, paki-open na lang po yung
wala lang po kami, mag-share lang po ako dito sa company namin. Actually, last month nag-audit kami ng ISO sa 45001. Before ng audit talaga mag-send kayo ng audit plan sa auditor nyo. Kasi nakalagay doon ano ng audit, tapos ang flow ng audit, tapos may specific time pa na kaming nilalagay kung ganito yung audit para madali, mabilis at saka yung audit. And also, before kami nagpa-audit ng 45,001, kasi nag-migrate kami, nagsimula kami sa OSAS 18,001. So, unang application ng kumpanya namin is OSAS. After that, kumuha kami ngayon lang, last year, kumuha kami ng ISO 45001. So ang ginawa namin, yung auditing company, nagpa-training kami sa kanila sa auditor, sa internal auditor, lead auditor. So itong mga nagbibigay ng certification ng ISO, nagbibigay din sila ng training din para sa company, para sa lead auditors, Yun po. Yun ang parang kalakaran dito sa.
Thank you po. Thank you sa sharing the information.
Thank you po, sir.
Thank you po, Sir Christian. Ngayon po, itatype ko po sa chat box yung training feedback form. So, can you just please, fill it out para marinig naman po namin yung feedback nyo with regards to this training at kung ano pa ho yung gusto nyo makitang improvement from this training.
Wala, ma'am.
Kasi first time eh.
Papakita tuloy, ma'am, na wala.
Sige, kakaano ko lang po. Type ko ulit. Yan, kakasend ko ulit dito sa chat box po natin. Okay, may mga nagtatanong rin sa Facebook, si Sir Noel, kailan ho yung ating training ng ISO 14,000 and 45,001. So, ito ho is sa next Friday po, 14,000 naman po iko-conduct to ni Ma'am Jolivet. At saka ang 45,000 po is iko-conduct naman after 2 weeks. Same day din po, Saturday. Will be on March 19. And iko-conduct naman po ito ng ating presidente, si Sir Albino. Then, we'll proceed sa IMS naman, which is iko-conduct po ulit ni Sir Roy. No? Para nakita natin yung schedule.
Parang gusto ko mag-request, si Roy na lang lahat muna.
Which you should talagang abangan niyo yan dahil para makita rin natin, sa dami pa naman ng sistema, sabi nga kanina ni Sir Joffrey, ang dami-daming mga management system standards. Paano ba natin i-implement lahat yan? Kung napakadami. Baka naman iba-iba yung mga hinihingi. No? May paraan yan. So wala na po bang ibang tanong? Baka meron pa ho kayong gustong i-raise.
Just wanted to ask nga pala kasi karamihan sa mga nag-register ay mga walang experience or walang knowledge or sabihin natin training sa 49,001. Kaya po ba kayo umattend dito kasi you are part of an organization that deals with this or balak nyo pa lang po pumasok dito kaya kayo gusto ko lang po malaman yung point of view nyo kumbaga bakit ninyo naisipang umattend. Anyone po?
Mukhang walang
Wala silang dahilan, Dok.
Wala silang ayaw mo nila magsalita.
Actually, sir, sa akin naman, sir, is balak kong magpa-member ng FILSA. At saka yung additional learning din po, sir, sa mga ganito. Kasi gaya sa amin, may training naman pinaprovide yung company. Kaso di enough talaga yung time. Lalo na ngayon, may trabaho din kami na kaya at least may refresher or marami pa kaming matutunan sa ISO na standard kasi malawak to at saka marami talagang hindi pa ma-discuss sa isang training natin namin.
Meron din nga ako mga nagme-message dito is really for more continuous improvement, more information. And honestly, sabi nga ko kanina ni Sir Roy at ni Sir Almino na itong topic na to, kung tutuusin, malawak po siya. Maraming clauses na kailangan yung pag-aralan. But what we want for you to learn is ano ba yung essence ng management system na yun. No? And sabi nga ni Pres, yung to the point na kaya nyo ring sumagot during the audit. No? Paano ka sasagot during the audit? May time kasi ang daming hinihinging requirements andyan na lang pala sa harapan. No? And merong last question. Sir Mark, ito po ba ay awareness training? Yes, it is an awareness training. we cannot do trainings with regards sa auditor courses po, as we are not allowed to do that, no. Merong mga certified body who can do that, as what Sir Roy mentioned kanina, such as the DNV, TUV, marami hong mga companies who can do that. But for us, what we're giving you is only just an awareness training po, no, just to broaden your knowledge. Okay, yes po.
Sir, sa experience ko naman, sir, nagtukla ko ng yung QMS management sa GTI, sa Department of Industry. Ang goal ko kay umatin ako para magkaroon ko ng karam. Kasi gusto ko talaga, sir, maging external auditor. Sir, hindi internal, kasi tapos ako ng internal auditor sa DTI. Ang problema, mahal sa ADYA. I think 35,000. Tama po ba, sir? Sa Manila, 35,000 ang external auditor, that is 5 days. You have to finish your awareness, after awareness, internal auditor, after internal auditor, external auditor. That is one of my goal, matapos ng external auditor. Kaya medyo nag-iipon-ipon pa, sir. Kaya dito sa lecture ni Doktor, lago ko nagkaroon ng malalim na kaalaman pagdating sa quality management system.
Thank you so much po, Sir Delphine. Merong message sa Facebook kay Ma'am Faye. Pag nag-attend po ba ng training na tulad nito, Sir and Ma'am, pwede na din po ba kami maging auditor? As mentioned po, ito po ay awareness training. So, obviously, hindi ko kayo makakonsider as an auditor. But rather, sabi nga, kaya nyo nang sumagot sa mga auditors, no? Kung ano man yung hinihingi nilang requirements, no? And maintindihan fully kung ano ba yung essence ng quality management system na in-explain ni Sir Roy.
Remember, if you wanted to be an auditor, you're not only required to learn the intricacies of the ISO standard where you are planning to be an auditor. You should also learn the knowledge of the ISO 19011, which is the guideline on how to conduct an audit and how to become an auditor. So those information can only be obtained when you take an ISO training intended to become an internal or lead auditor. Parehas po yun itinuturo doon. Kasi hindi sapat na alam mo lang kung ano yung hinihingi ng standard, kung ano yung audit mo. Sapat, kailangan din malaman mo paano bang kumilos, magsalita, mag-isip, at mag-conduct ang isang tao na bilang isang auditor. Baka auditor ka, tapos ang ano mo, confrontational ka, nakikipag-away ka sa mga tao, ay baka hindi ka lumabas ng buhay sa unang araw mo pala ng audit, no? Pangalawa, baka naman ang dating mo parang pulis-pulis ka, no? Auditor ako, no? Matakot kayo sa akin. Hindi ganon. You could not be able to generate data or information in relation to standard requirements if there is no what you call this, no involvement and participation of your auditees. Kasi remember, it may be a cliche, pero sa totoo lang, pag ikaw ay nag-audit, hindi ka naghahanap ng mali. Hinahanapan mo sila ng justification na ginawa nila yung tama. Kaya lang, along the way, habang nag-audit ka at hinahanap mo kung ano yung sa dapat lang na ginagawa nila, kasi yun naman ay dinokumento nila, inilagay nila, at ginagawa nila, ang kaso, hindi lahat sumusunod. So, in the process of the audit, you identify non-conformity. But that is not the essence or that is not the objective in the first place of being an auditor. Remember, auditor ka, pinapasahod ka pa rin ng kumpanyang ino-audit mo. Huwag kang ano diyan. In the first place, ang kailangan nila someone that will guide them during their audit process. Kasi kung lahat alam na yan, di lahat na kayo auditor, hindi niyo na kailangan magtrabaho as your manufacturing process. No? Kailangan bawat tao sa isang organisasyon may papel na ginagampanan. Kung sila ino-audit mo kasi may proseso sila na ginagawa, yung prosesong ginagawa nila, yun yung nagpo-produce ng produkto at serbisyo na bumubuhay sa kumpanya nyo. Hindi yun ang kalaban nyo. Ang kalaban ninyo, yung mga tao na hindi sumusunod kasi hindi nila alam ang ginagawa nila o hindi sila na-inform ng tama. Wala naman tao na ayaw sumunod kung napaliwanagan. And your job is to educate them. Hindi kayo police. Kaya nga yan, lahat ng mga yan, tinuturo yan during the training if you wanted to become an auditor. Charisma. Kumbaga kaya mong kunin ang loob nila, kaya mong, hindi naman porket na nakakatakot, no? Kaya mong kunin ang respeto nila kahit na malumanay lang ang pananalita mo. Hindi mo kailangan silang sigawan. Sabihin mo nila na dapat pag auditor kayo matamis ang dila mo, which is actually true. Kasi you are trying to take their trust and confidence at a short period of time. Kailangan mo yun magawa. So lahat yun tinuturo doon.
Okay. Thank
Ma'am
you.
MJ, nag-raise yata ng...
Yes po.
Ako, lagot ako. Baka may nasabing mali. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon po sa mga nasa Dubai and good evening sa Philippines. Ano lang po, wala naman akong against sa mga sinabi ni Doc Roy. So lahat sa mga tama, malinaw, madaling intindihin. So ano lang po, may gusto lang akong i-share lang para sa mga baguhan or curious about auditing. Okay. Si QMS, ito yung Quality Management System. Ito actually yung ini-aim ng mga gusto magpa-certify ng ISO. Kauna-unahan yan. Hindi basta-basta nauuna yung iba. Talagang quality agad muna. Kasi nga, kumbaga para sa ikakasaya ng client natin. Di ba? Customer satisfaction nga. So ito yung una. So ngayon po, ito naman ang masasabi ko sa mga interested sa mga pagiging auditor. So gaya ng sinabi ni Doc Roy, unang-una, hindi ito yung certification na kailangan ninyo. This is an awareness para magkaroon tayo ng idea. That's good. Also refresher to sa mga may alam na. And sa mga gustong maging auditor, dalawang pagpipilian mo. Ano bang gusto mo? Internal o yung tinatawag nilang external? Kasi pag external, kailangan mo maging lead auditor. Anong klaseng external ba? Ang third party ba ng mga sister company nyo o third party ng talagang auditor? Tulad nung nag-mention dito, may nag-mention ng TUV Rhineland. I am familiar with TUV Nord and TUV Sud. Kasi North, South, and Middle yan eh. Middle si Rhineland. And TUV Sud po, naging auditor namin actually. TUV Nord ang auditor namin. Ayan. So, if you want to become a third-party auditor o tinatawag nating lead auditor, you should pass the exam. Mag-training ka talaga ng 40 hours, yung 5 days. At dapat ipasa mo yun. Kasi if you only completed that one, hindi ka pa rin matatawag eh. Siguro, pwedeng sabihin na may knowledge ka na. But, passing the exam means you may apply sa mismong IRCA sa CQI bilang auditor. Doon ka palang makakapag-work sa mga auditing firm. Kapag recognize ka na, kumbaga registered ka na auditor. Now, registered ka dapat. Bukod sa ipinasa mo yung lead auditor, maging registered ka. So you have 5 years to register upon passing. So kung pumasa ka kunwari ngayon 2021, so may 5 years ka, meron kang palugit para mag-register ka. And para din siyang pagiging practitioner or consultant eh. Para ma-maintain mo yan, yung bilang registered auditor ka talaga, para ma-maintain mo yan, dapat nagpo-perform ka talaga ng audit. So meron kang mga talagang accomplishments, tapos yung mga hours mo na nag-audit ka, sasubmit mo yon, kasama na rin sino-sino yung in-audit mo at ano yung mga yan. So medyo siya, higher and I believe alam ni Doc Roy yan, malamang, no? Higher level siya talaga. So maganda niyan, magsimula muna kayo internal sa organization na kabilang kayo. So may training ng pang-internal auditor alam ko usually 1 day ata, 1 day ba? Parang mali, saglit
Sir,
lang.
3 days.
3 days sa amin,
Ang-
ma'am.
1
Sa
day yung
amin,
isa,
3
yung
days.
awareness.
Yeah,
Yung awareness ang
awareness
1
1 day.
day. Pero yung internal ay 3 days. Ayan. So,
Yung
ang
lead auditor,
dami.
5 days.
Yes, 5 days po. Ang dami mong marami kang dapat malaman. Yung iba nga nakatapos ng training, ang ending wala lang. Watcher sa audit. 'Di ba? Paano yung dating, 'di ba? Huwag watcher sa audit matapos mag-training kasi hindi naintindihan. Yun ang problem. Na?
Mga ano kayo eh.
Kaya dapat naiintindihan po talaga. Kaya salamat talaga rito sa sa awareness na to. Kahit ako na kasi ako hindi ko kasi expertise yung quality. Hindi ako ng quality, hindi ako sa environment. Sa lang ako sa OS. Sa OS lang ako naging lead auditor. Kasi yun lang kasi tinake ko for lead auditor na yun. Natakot ako
May kapalit na ako.
Ay, hindi.
Ma'am, ikaw na sa
Grabe, hindi
Center.
po. Babalik ko kay Doc ko yung papasok ko sa kanila. So, so, ayun lang po. Ayun lang. So, maganda yung yung mga itatakel ng FILSA buong March. Sobrang ganda. So, we are hoping talaga na nakakatulong nga talaga sa mga tao, no, sa mga nagnanais ng mga higher level or advancement sa kanilang mga career. So, yun lang po. Thank you.